The hum of the Hope's End engine filled the bridge, a constant, reassuring thrum that spoke of progress, of exploration. Captain Aeron, his weathered face etched with the wisdom of countless voyages, surveyed the instrument readings, his gaze moving from the star charts to the ship's sensors. "Nothing unusual, Captain," reported Gyro, the ship's navigator, his voice as smooth as the polished surface of the star charts he monitored. "Course is clear. We're on schedule for our routine sweep of the Andromeda Nebula." The crew, as diverse as the galaxies they traversed, went about their tasks. Ira, the chief science officer, her eyes gleaming with a youthful enthusiasm, pored over data streams, her nimble fingers dancing across the holographic displays. Cassian, the chief engineer, leaned back in his chair, his gaze fixed on a monitor displaying intricate schematics, his expression a perfect portrait of jaded cynicism. Lyra, the communications officer, her fingers flitting across the console, hummed softly as she monitored the galaxy's radio chatter, a symphony of static and alien whispers. Ryan, the security officer, his imposing frame a silent sentinel, scanned the ship's security systems, his vigilance a comfort to the crew. Suddenly, the bridge went silent. The hum of the engine faded, replaced by a low, thrumming echo that seemed to reverberate from the very core of the ship. Aeron's brow furrowed, his keen eyes darting to the sensors. "What was that?" he asked, his voice a quiet command. The crew, startled from their routines, turned to the captain, their faces filled with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Unknown signal," Gyro confirmed, his voice tight. "Originating from the black hole edge." Aeron's gaze hardened. The black hole edge, a region of unimaginable gravity, a cosmic abyss where time itself seemed to unravel. It was a place of immense danger, where even the most advanced vessels dared not tread. Is it a distress call?" Ira asked, her voice barely a whisper. Gyro activated the high-frequency amplifiers, magnifying the distorted signal. It was faint, fragmented, but undeniably a plea for help, a desperate cry from the edge of oblivion. It's Kryllian," Lyra declared, her voice echoing with awe, "but it's corrupted. The signal is heavily distorted by the black hole." The Kryllians, a civilization known for their advanced technology and complex social structures, a race that had vanished from the galactic map centuries ago. Whispers of their demise echoed through the star lanes, tales of a catastrophic event that had driven them to the brink of extinction. "What are the odds of them being alive? Of them being out there?" Cassian muttered, his skepticism barely concealed. "Odds don't matter, Cassian," Aeron replied, his voice firm. "They're calling out. Someone needs to answer." "Answer?" Cassian scoffed. "The other species dismissed them as a lost cause years ago. Why should we be different?" "Because we're human, Cassian," Aeron countered, his voice calm, resolute. "And we don't turn our backs on those in need." The crew fell silent, their gazes fixed on Aeron. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the inherent empathy that set humanity apart from other galactic civilizations. They were adventurers, explorers, yes, but they were also the guardians of the galaxy's fragile hope. "We're going to intercept the signal," Aeron declared, his voice echoing with quiet strength. "We're going to find out what happened to the Kryllians. We're going to help them." "But Captain," Gyro protested, "the black hole." Aeron cut him off, his gaze unwavering. "It's not our job to judge who deserves help, Gyro. We help those who need it, regardless of the risks. We are the Hope's End, remember?" The crew exchanged glances, a mix of hesitation and determination fueling their expressions. They knew the risks, they understood the dangers lurking at the black hole edge. But they were humans, and they were driven by a powerful force, a force that transcended fear and doubt, a deep-seated need to help, a relentless drive to be beacons of hope in a universe awash in indifference. "Prepare for departure," Aeron ordered, his voice a blend of command and conviction. "We're going to the black hole edge." The ship's engines roared to life, propelling the Hope's End on a daring mission, a journey towards the abyss, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity, a beacon of hope in the face of cosmic indifference. The Hope's End sliced through the black canvas of space, propelled by the tireless hum of its engines. The stars, like cosmic diamonds scattered across the void, twinkled in the distance, their light taking millennia to reach the vessel. Even with the familiar thrumming of the ship's engines, it felt as though they were hurtling towards the unknown, swallowed by the vast emptiness. Cassian, ever the pragmatist, grunted as he adjusted the flow of coolant to the ship's reactor. "This whole mission feels like a waste of time," he muttered, his voice tinged with the usual cynicism. "Just another routine sweep of a dusty corner of the galaxy. I'd rather be back on Earth, fixing those broken-down drones." "Patience, old man," Aeron chuckled, his gaze fixed on the star charts. "We're not here to collect dust. We're here to learn, to explore, to push the boundaries of knowledge." "Knowledge?" Cassian snorted. "What knowledge can you possibly gain from this desolate wilderness?" Lyra, ever the diplomat, intervened, her voice soft yet firm. "You never know, Cassian. We might stumble upon something fascinating, a lost civilization, an undiscovered phenomenon. This is the thrill of exploration, the thrill of the unknown." Suddenly, the bridge's silence was broken by a sharp, piercing sound. The ship's sensors whirred into action, their screens flashing with a flurry of data. "Captain, we've got a signal," Gyro announced, his voice tight with urgency. "It's weak, distorted, but it's definitely a distress call. It originates from the edge of the black hole, near the Andromeda Nebula." Aeron's eyes widened. "The black hole? That's impossible. No sentient species could survive near a black hole. It's a death trap." "Except the signal's definitely there, Captain," Gyro said, his brow furrowed. "It seems to be a coordinated broadcast. A plea for help." Ira leaned closer to the sensors, her brow furrowed, her fingers flying across the console, trying to decipher the garbled message. "It's a language I don't recognize, but it seems to be pleading for assistance. They say they are on the brink of oblivion." "Oblivion," Cassian scoffed, his cynicism undeterred. "That's what happens to anyone foolish enough to venture near a black hole. You can't rescue someone who's already gone." Aeron, however, was already making decisions. "Gyro, plot a course towards the coordinates. We've got to investigate." "Captain, are you sure? It's dangerous. It could be a trap. Other civilizations have dismissed it as a lost cause. We could be wasting precious time." "Time is precious, yes," Aeron said, his voice firm, resolute. "But so is life, and we have a responsibility to help those in need, especially when they are so close to the edge of oblivion." He looked at his crew, their faces a mix of apprehension and determination. "We're human. That's what sets us apart. We are driven by empathy, by the desire to help, even when the odds are stacked against us. And this is one of those moments. We dare to hope, even in the face of the impossible." Cassian shook his head. "Captain, you know the risks. We could lose the entire ship. The black hole is a force we don't understand." Aeron met his gaze, his expression unwavering. "There are risks in any mission, Cassian, but we are not driven by fear. We are driven by hope." The Hope's End began its descent towards the edge of oblivion, heading towards the unknown, towards a destiny shaped by the desperate plea for help carried on the faint, distorted signal from a dying civilization. Aeron knew it was a gamble, a risk, but he also knew that no one else would dare to go, and that, in itself, was a human victory. The Hope's End hummed, a mechanical heartbeat echoing through the ship as it penetrated the veil of the black hole's gravitational pull. Aeron, his brow furrowed, watched the readings on the navigation console. The ship twisted and strained against the warping space, buffeted by invisible forces. Outside, stars blurred and stretched, warped by the immense gravity, painting the void with otherworldly streaks of light. "Almost there, Captain," Gyro said, his voice tight with the tension of the situation. "But the gravitational pull is getting stronger. We'll need to adjust our trajectory soon." "I'm aware of the risks, Gyro," Aeron replied, his voice calm despite the growing apprehension in his chest. "But we have to reach those coordinates. If we turn back now, we might never know what happened to them." The Hope's End shuddered as it navigated through a field of debris, remnants of a shattered planet, their once glorious surfaces now scarred and pitted by the black hole's insatiable hunger. Aeron watched as a chunk of metal, glittering with iridescent hues, drifted past a viewscreen, its surface etched with ancient glyphs. It was a stark reminder of the devastation that lurked near the black hole. "Captain," Ira's voice crackled through the calm, her tone laced with awe and a touch of fear. "I'm picking up faint energy signatures, scattered across this debris field. They seem to be artificial." Aeron's breath hitched. "Artificial? What kind of signatures?" "I'm not sure yet," Ira admitted, her fingers flying across her console, "but they are powerful and incredibly complex." The bridge fell into a tense silence. Aeron could feel the weight of anticipation, the hope and dread that hung thick in the air. "Captain," Ryan's voice rumbled from the security station, "I'm detecting several anomaly readings. They seem to be pulses, like beacon signals, but faint and irregular." "Could they be the source of the distress call?" Lyra asked, her brow furrowed as she analyzed the chaotic signals on her screen. "It's possible," Aeron said, his gaze fixed on the viewscreen, where a sprawling landscape of metallic structures and shattered cities shimmered in the void. It was a ghost of a civilization, a testament to a power once immense, now reduced to a haunting reminder of the universe's indifference. He spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Hold your course, Gyro. I want to get a closer look at this." As the Hope's End inched closer to the ruins, the scene became even more chilling. The debris field was littered with the remnants of what had been a magnificent civilization, now a haunting symphony of twisted metal and broken dreams. Ira's voice, laced with morbid fascination, echoed through the calm. "These structures are unlike anything I've ever seen. Materials we can't even begin to identify. Technology that defies comprehension." Aeron could feel his hope growing, but it was laced with a subtle apprehension. The Kryllians, if that's who they were, had built a civilization beyond anything they had ever encountered, and something had destroyed it. But there was still hope. They had to see if they could help. The Hope's End shuddered, buffeted by the gravitational pull of the black hole that loomed like a monstrous shadow in the distance. Aeron gripped the armrest of his command chair, his face tight with concentration. The ship's sensors were overloaded, spitting out a torrent of data that painted a picture of chaos and destruction. "Captain," Gyro's voice crackled through the comms, "we're picking up a faint electromagnetic signature. It seems to be emanating from the surface of a planet just outside the event horizon." Aeron straightened in his chair, his heart a drumbeat of anticipation. "Can you pinpoint the source?" "Yes, sir. It's on the surface, near a massive structure that appears to be emitting the signal. It's strange. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Aeron's gaze fell upon Ira, who was staring intently at the sensor readings with a mix of wonder and concern. "Ira, any idea what we're looking at?" "I can't be certain, Captain. The signal is weak, distorted, but it appears to be artificial. A distress beacon, perhaps. But the wavelength is bizarre. It doesn't match anything known to us." Cashin, his arms folded, leaned back in his chair, his voice laced with his trademark cynicism. "A distress beacon, eh? From the edge of a black hole? Don't you think that's a bit unlikely?" "No one survives near a black hole, Cashin," added Ryan, his voice a low growl. "Especially not intelligent beings. The gravity would tear them apart." "Perhaps, but we can't just ignore it, Ryan," Aeron countered, his gaze unwavering. "We're here to explore, to discover, not to turn a blind eye to those in need." Lyra, her eyes alight with curiosity, leaned forward, her voice a whisper. "Captain, I'm picking up a faint audio signal along with the electromagnetic pulse. It's faint, but I think I can decipher it. It's a language, I believe." "A language?" Aeron's eyebrows shot up. "From beings at the edge of a black hole?" Lyra nodded, her fingers dancing across the console. "I can't make out the words, but the structure of the language is incredibly complex. It's unlike anything I've ever encountered." Aeron looked at his crew, their faces a mixture of apprehension and wonder. "Prepare to enter orbit around the planet, Gyro. Ira, ready the long-range scanners." As the Hope's End maneuvered through the treacherous space, the crew watched with bated breath as a swirling, shimmering world filled their screens. a world that pulsed with an unnatural energy, a world that seemed to scream with a silent, desperate plea for help. The planet was a sight to behold, a vibrant tapestry of blue oceans, emerald forests, and ochre deserts, tinged with a strange, shimmering light that pulsed with an unsettling rhythm. But the planet's beauty was marred by the presence of massive, decaying structures that jutted out from the surface. Their once gleaming metal now rusted and corroded, their intricate outlines hinting at a lost civilization. "The planet is teeming with life," Ira announced, her voice filled with awe and concern. "But it seems to be dying. The atmosphere, it's thinning, choked with a toxic gas. The biosphere, it's collapsing. And the surface, it's riddled with craters, signs of some catastrophic event." As the ship moved closer, the image on the screen became clearer. In the heart of a vast crater, surrounded by a field of twisted metal and shattered structures, stood a colossal tower, its apex pierced by a brilliant emerald light. The signal, the distress beacon, was emanating from that tower. "Captain, the signal is growing stronger," Gyro reported. "And the language, I think I'm starting to make out some words." "What are they saying, Lyra?" Aeron asked, his voice tight with anticipation. Lyra's fingers flew across the console, her face a mask of concentration. "It's difficult. The language is so complex. But I think it's a plea for help. They're dying, and they're begging someone to help them." Aeron's gaze scanned his crew, their faces etched with a silent question. He knew they were all afraid, but he could see the spark of hope in their eyes, the same spark he felt burning in his own heart. "Set course for the tower," Aeron commanded, his voice firm. "We're going to see who is calling out to us from the edge of the black hole." The Hope's End drifted through the void, an unassuming speck amidst the vast cosmic canvas. Aeron paced the bridge, his gaze fixed on the swirling abyss of the black hole, a monstrous cosmic entity whose gravitational pull whispered a silent threat. The faint, distorted signal, a desperate plea from the edge of oblivion, pulsed through the ship's sensors. "Their technology, it's incredibly advanced," Ira spoke, her voice a hushed whisper, her eyes wide with wonder and concern. She had spent the past hours poring over the data streams, piecing together the fragmented remnants of the Kryllians' civilization. "Their understanding of physics, it's far beyond anything we've seen. And yet, it's like a broken masterpiece, beautiful, but deeply flawed." "Broken, you say?" Cashin's voice was a gravelly rasp, his skepticism etched across his face. He leaned forward, his gaze fixed on the holographic projections of the Kryllian artifacts. "Maybe their technology isn't broken, just foreign. Maybe this entire civilization is a puzzle we're just starting to see." "Foreign, maybe," Lyra added, her voice soft but firm, her focus intently on the console. "But their language, it's a symphony of complex harmonics. You can feel the desperation, the fear, in every syllable. It's almost heartbreaking." The Kryllians were a race unlike any they had encountered. They were a people of ethereal beauty, their bodies sculpted with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Their eyes, a deep, luminous blue, held a depth of wisdom and a hint of a sorrow that the crew found unnerving. They wore garments woven from a substance that shimmered and flowed, catching the light in an ethereal dance. And their technology, though beyond human comprehension, was a testament to their brilliance, a testament to a civilization that had reached for the stars, and then, inexplicably, teetered on the brink of oblivion. Aeron studied the Kryllians, his gaze lingering on their solemn faces. Their civilization, it's a monument to what could be, a reminder of what we could achieve if we could only learn to reach beyond ourselves and embrace our shared humanity. He turned to Ira. "Ira, have you been able to establish further contact?" Ira shook her head, her brow furrowed. "They're wary. They've been abandoned before. Their trust is fragile." Aeron nodded, understanding the weight of their history. He knew the Kryllians had been abandoned by other civilizations, left to face their doom alone. "We need to show them that we're not like the others," he said, his voice filled with resolve. "We need to show them that compassion, not indifference, is at the heart of our mission." He turned to the bridge crew. "Team," he said, his voice resonating with purpose. "We came here to rescue them, to offer them a chance at survival. We've come a long way, faced unimaginable dangers, and we're not backing down now. We're going to earn their trust. We're going to show them the true face of humanity." The crew, inspired by Aeron's unwavering conviction, nodded in agreement. The Hope's End continued its slow, cautious approach towards the Kryllian vessel, a testament to their unwavering commitment to a rescue mission that defied the cosmic odds and challenged the very definition of heroism. The Kryllians, with their ethereal voices and haunting melodies, filled the Hope's End with an alien aura. Their presence, a stark contrast to the bustling energy of a human crew, was a constant reminder of the mission's gravity. Ira, ever the optimist, was already deep in conversations with their leader, a being of shimmering energy with an ancient wisdom etched upon its form. Aeron, ever the strategist, was focused on the logistics of their rescue, meticulously planning every step. Cassian, however, remained aloof. His weathered face, perpetually adorned with a grimace, was his shield, warding off the emotions that threatened to surface. He wandered the ship, his footsteps heavy against the metal deck, a shadow of his usual self. "You all right, Cassian?" Lyra, her brow furrowed with concern, approached him as he stood by a viewport, gazing out at the shimmering expanse of space, the black hole a menacing presence in the distance. Cassian turned, a flicker of irritation in his eyes. "Just fine, Lyra. Why do you ask? You've been quiet. You hardly touched your meal. You've been staring at that black hole for hours." He snorted, his cynicism a familiar refuge. "Just admiring the scenery, Lyra. You know, the kind of place where your ship could easily get swallowed whole." Lyra's smile faltered. "It's a dangerous place, Cassian. But we're not going to let it get us. We have to get those Kryllians out of there." Cassian shrugged, his gaze returning to the black hole. I know. It's just hard to believe. These glorified energy beings, with their advanced tech and their fragile emotions, it's all a bit too much." Lyra's voice softened. "They've lost everything, Cassian. Their home, their loved ones. They're scared. They need our help." He stared at her for a moment, his cynicism softening. "I know," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I know." He turned back to the expanse of space, his gaze settling on the Kryllian ship, a massive structure that seemed to shimmer with an internal energy. The Kryllians' technology was a marvel, a complex web of energy fields and intricate circuits that defied human understanding. Yet, it was this very technology that held the key to their rescue. "I'm just worried about that technology," Cassian muttered, his voice laced with a hint of apprehension. "It's unstable. It's a gamble." Lyra laid a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of comfort. "We'll figure it out, Cassian. We always do. We have to, for them." Cassian looked at her, a flicker of emotion in his eyes. "You're right," he said, his voice firm. "We have to." He turned away, his gaze fixed on the Kryllian vessel, a new resolve hardening his features. He might be cynical, but he was also a brilliant engineer. He would figure it out. He would make sure they were rescued. He owed it to them, to his crew, to the very fabric of his human empathy that he tried so hard to conceal. The Hope's End hummed, a beacon of hope amidst the vast darkness. The Kryllians, fragile and vulnerable, waited, their fate in the hands of a group of humans who dared to help where others had failed. The mission was far from over, the risks still immense. But deep within the Hope's End, Cassian was no longer just an engineer, but a protector. His cynicism was fading, replaced by a spark of hope, a spark of humanity, a spark that no black hole, no matter how menacing, could extinguish. The Kryllians were a tapestry of contradictions. Their technology, breathtaking in its complexity, seemed to defy the laws of physics, yet their fragile, ethereal forms hinted at a vulnerability hidden beneath a veneer of scientific prowess. They were a race of thinkers, of dreamers, whose knowledge of the cosmos was both profound and terrifying. Yet, they were also a people of silence. Their language, a series of intricate patterns and rhythmic hums, eluded Lyra's every attempt at translation. It was like trying to decipher the song of a wind chime, beautiful, but devoid of meaning. Lyra's frustration grew with every passing hour. The Kryllians, despite their initial reluctance, were eager to share their knowledge, their stories of a lost civilization. A civilization on the precipice of unparalleled understanding, now teetering on the brink of oblivion. But their desperation, their fear, was locked away behind a linguistic barrier that Lyra struggled to break. Aeron, ever the patient observer, watched Lyra grapple with the alien tongue. He saw the flicker of frustration in her eyes, the tightening of her jaw. He knew the pressure she was under. The fate of the Kryllians might hinge on her ability to communicate with them, to decipher their secrets, to understand their needs. "Don't worry, Lyra," Aeron said, his voice a soothing balm in the tense atmosphere. "There's no need to rush." Lyra looked up, her gaze weary. "It's not about rushing, Captain. It's about understanding. They're trying to tell us something. I can feel it. But I can't grasp their meaning." "I know," Aeron replied. "But you will. You have the best of them, Lyra. You will find the key." His words were a gentle reminder, a reassurance that she wasn't alone in this struggle. She was a warrior of words, a bridge between worlds, and her determination, fueled by a deep empathy, would not let her fail. Cassian, ever the skeptic, watched the interaction with a jaded amusement. He saw Lyra's frustration, her struggle, and it reminded him of his own youthful idealism, an idealism that the cold, unforgiving realities of space had long since extinguished. But he couldn't help but admire her tenacity, her fierce dedication to this mission, even when the odds seemed stacked against her. Ira, ever the optimist, saw a spark of hope in Lyra's determination. She knew that Lyra, with her passion for language, her innate understanding of communication, would find the way to connect with the Kryllians, to bridge the gap between their worlds. And, as Lyra continued to pore over the Kryllian language, a flicker of understanding began to bloom. In the subtle shifts in their rhythmic hums, in the almost imperceptible changes in the patterns they traced in the air, she began to discern a sense of urgency, a desperate plea for help. They're asking for a way out," Lyra breathed, her voice trembling with the weight of what she was beginning to understand. Aeron, Ira, Cassian, all leaned in, their eyes fixed on Lyra, their hope growing with every word she uttered. They were about to embark on an adventure that would test the limits of their knowledge, their resilience, and their very definition of what it meant to be human. And it all began with the whispers of a lost tongue. The Kryllians, the survivors of a civilization shattered by a cosmic catastrophe, were a study in stark contrasts. Their technology, remnants of a bygone era, hummed with an unsettling power, hinting at a lost brilliance. Yet their bodies, frail and emaciated, bore the weight of unimaginable loss. Their eyes, once vibrant, held a deep, simmering despair. Ryan, the security officer, watched them with a mixture of apprehension and reluctant admiration. He'd been taught to view aliens with suspicion, to expect treachery and deception. Yet, the Kryllians, despite their advanced technology, seemed strangely vulnerable, their suffering somehow tangible. He saw their weary resilience as they attempted to rebuild their society, to salvage what remained of their shattered world. He saw their quiet acceptance of their fate, their stoic resolve in the face of despair. Their language, once a symphony of intricate tones and subtle variations, was a fragmented echo of its former self. Lyra, the communications officer, spent countless hours deciphering their broken words, weaving together the threads of their history. Her efforts, initially met with stoic silence, were gradually rewarded with cautious nods and hesitant smiles. One evening, Ryan found himself drawn to the Kryllian makeshift encampment, a cluster of temporary shelters fashioned from salvaged materials. A small group of Kryllians gathered around a flickering source of light, their voices hushed, whispering in a tongue he couldn't understand. He stood at the edge of the encampment, observing them, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon strapped to his hip. Suddenly, a young Kryllian, her features etched with exhaustion, looked up. Her gaze, filled with a mixture of weariness and a flicker of curiosity, met his. She spoke a single word in their tongue, a word that resonated with a strange familiarity. Lyra, standing beside him, looked at him with a question in her eyes. She asked, "Are you afraid?" Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. Ryan blinked, caught off guard. He hadn't expected such a direct question, and certainly not from a being so clearly fragile. But beneath the fear, he saw a spark of bravery, a defiance that echoed within him. He looked at the young Kryllian, his expression softening. He knew the fear was real, the terror of their situation deeply ingrained. He couldn't offer them guarantees, no promises of safety or security. But he could offer something else, something he had learned from his own experience, something he had come to believe in deeply. He walked towards the young Kryllian, his footsteps slow and deliberate. He stood before her, his imposing frame a stark contrast to her slender form. He raised his hand, a gesture of peace, and spoke. Not in their language, not in any language they could understand, but in the language of shared experience, of a common humanity. He spoke of his own fears, of the challenges he had faced, of the battles he had fought. He spoke of the strength he had found within himself, the courage that had seen him through the darkest of times. He paused, waiting for the young Kryllian to respond. She looked at him, her gaze searching, her eyes filled with a flicker of hope. Then she spoke, her voice a soft, hesitant whisper. "We are not afraid," she said. "We are simply exhausted." Ryan nodded in understanding. He knew the exhaustion, the weight of loss, and the burden of survival. He saw a reflection of himself in this young Kryllian, a shared resilience, a shared fight. And he knew, in that moment, that fear was not the only emotion that could fuel their journey. It was hope, that spark of courage that would carry them forward, together. The Kryllian vessel, a testament to their advanced technology, lay half-submerged in the swirling abyss of the black hole's gravitational pull. Its once gleaming surface was scarred, its intricate energy conduits sputtering, a tragic mirror of the dying civilization it housed. Aeron, his face grim, gazed towards the pulsating singularity. "It's too late," he murmured, his voice heavy with the weight of their impossible situation. "They're doomed. The black hole will claim them." Ira, her eyes wide with a mix of sadness and determination, shook her head. "No, Aeron. Not yet. We can still help them. Look at their technology." She pointed to a screen displaying the Kryllian ship's intricate energy system. "They have a way to pull themselves free. It's their last chance." Aeron studied the complex schematics, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's highly unstable. A single malfunction could—" "We can't let fear dictate our actions," Ira interrupted, her voice firm. "The Kryllians need us. We have to try." They turned to the Kryllian ambassador, a frail figure with a haunting beauty, his eyes filled with a despair that echoed the fate of his people. "We must activate the Tesseract before the black hole's pull becomes too strong," the ambassador rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "But it is a desperate gamble. We have no time to explain its workings. You must trust us." The Kryllian ambassador, using a universal translator, explained that the Tesseract was a device that harnessed the energy of the black hole itself, a kind of cosmic slingshot that could potentially fling them back into the safety of normal space. But the process was incredibly delicate and required precise timing and calibration. Lyra, her eyes alight with the thrill of a new challenge, translated the Kryllians' words. "It says that the Tesseract is their only hope. They need our help to activate it." Cassian, his skepticism etched into his normally stoic features, scoffed. "Hope? That's all this is. A fool's hope." "We can't just stand by and watch an entire civilization die," Lyra retorted, her voice sharp. "We're explorers, Cassian. Humanity is built on the foundation of trying to understand, to help. That's what makes us different." Cassian, his gaze flickering between Lyra and the Kryllian ambassador, remained silent. Ryan, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon, spoke in a low voice. "This mission is beyond our capacity. We're risking everything here. Are we truly prepared to sacrifice ourselves for beings we barely understand?" "The Kryllians need our help," Aeron responded, his voice ringing with conviction. "We can't ignore that. We may not understand their culture or their technology, but we do understand courage. They have shown remarkable courage in the face of unimaginable peril. We owe them that much." He turned to the Kryllians. "Tell us what we need to do. We're willing to try." The Kryllian ambassador's eyes widened in surprise. You will help us?" We will, Aeron confirmed, his gaze steady. We'll do everything we can to help you. This decision, a testament to humanity's inherent empathy, was a gamble, a leap of faith into the unknown. It was a choice that would forever alter the course of both human and Kryllian history. The Kryllian technology hummed, a symphony of clicks and pops that reverberated through the Hope's End. Glowing panels flickered with symbols that danced across Ira's vision, a kaleidoscope of information that threatened to overwhelm her. But she couldn't waver. The fate of the Kryllians, of an entire civilization, rested on her shoulders. It's unstable, she muttered, her voice tight with apprehension. The energy signature is erratic. It could overload at any moment. Aeron, his gaze fixed on the holographic display, nodded grimly. The Kryllian device was a marvel of engineering, a testament to their lost civilization's genius. However, the black hole's pull had taken its toll, twisting the technology into a precarious tapestry of potential disaster. We have to try, he said, his voice laced with determination. They're counting on us. Cashin, leaning against the console, his brow furrowed, tapped his fingers impatiently against its metallic surface. I still say it's a fool's gamble, Captain. One wrong move, and we'll be sucked into that black hole along with them. We have no choice, Aeron countered, his gaze unwavering. We promised them a chance, Cashin. We have to deliver. Lyra, her fingers flying across the keyboard, translated the Kryllian warnings cascading across the console. They say it's their last hope. The device is their only escape. Ryan, his gaze fixed on the flickering panels, stepped forward, his voice a low rumble. We need a plan, a secure plan. Aeron turned to the Kryllian envoy, a tall, ethereal being with shimmering iridescent skin, his eyes filled with a desperate hope that mirrored their own. Tell us, how much time do we have? The envoy, his voice a melodic whisper, responded. Our time is short. The pull grows stronger with each passing moment. The bridge pulsed with tension. Ira, her mind racing, searched for a solution. Cashin, his skepticism momentarily forgotten, focused on the device's intricacies. Aeron, his gaze resolute, held the weight of their responsibility on his shoulders. I've got it, Ira exclaimed, her voice breaking the tension. If we can stabilize the energy flow, we can create a temporary shield, a bubble of sorts, to deflect the black hole's pull. The Kryllian envoy's eyes widened. That is possible? We'll need to synchronize the device's core with Hope's End power grid, Ira explained, her voice laced with a cautious optimism. It's a delicate procedure, but it might be our only shot. Ryan, his brow furrowed, voiced his concerns. This could overload the ship, Chief. I understand the risk, Ira responded, her voice unwavering. But it's the only option we have. Aeron, his eyes locking with Ira's, nodded. We'll do it. We'll stabilize the device and save them. The crew, their hearts pounding in their chests, moved into action. Cashin, his fingers flying across the console, began to synchronize the Hope's End power grid with the Kryllian device. Lyra, her voice a calm whisper, translated the Kryllian instructions, her fingers dancing across the communications console. Ryan, his gaze watchful, monitored the ship's systems, ready to react to any anomaly. The bridge, filled with a mixture of hope and fear, became a crucible where the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The air in the bridge of the Hope's End crackled with tension. The Kryllians, faces etched with both desperation and a newfound hope, waited for Aeron's decision. The rescue plan, cobbled together with their advanced yet unstable technology, rested on a razor-thin edge. Captain, Ira's voice, usually brimming with enthusiasm, was tight with apprehension. The Kryllian device, she paused, searching for the right words. It's not designed for this kind of maneuver. The energy fluctuations are unpredictable. Aeron, his eyes fixed on the holographic projection of the black hole, its swirling abyss a terrifying spectacle, nodded grimly. We know that. Cashin, his brow furrowed, leaned forward, his fingers tapping a rhythmic beat on the armrest of his chair. And we know that if it fails, we're all going to be pulled right into that cosmic toilet bowl. Aeron ignored him, his gaze shifting to the Kryllians. "What do you say, Eldor? Can you stabilize the device? Can you give us the chance we need?" Eldor, his face a mask of weariness, met Aeron's gaze. "It is a risk, Captain. A very great risk. But we have no other choice." "That's what we said," Aeron replied, a quiet smile breaking across his lips. "We all have no other choice. This is what we do. This is who we are." He turned to the rest of the crew. "Lyra, check the communication relays. Cassian, prep the emergency power conduits. Ryan, secure the evacuation zones. Ira, run a final analysis on the device. And everyone, prepare for immediate evacuation." Aeron took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was more than just another rescue mission. This was a test of faith, not just in themselves, but in the Kryllians. A test of whether humanity, despite the apathy and self-preservation of other species, could truly be a beacon of hope in a universe where even hope was a luxury. "We're going to need a lot of luck," Cassian muttered, his voice tight with anxiety. "Luck has nothing to do with it," Aeron countered, his gaze unwavering. "This is about courage, and about doing what's right." He looked again at the Kryllians, their faces a tapestry of fear and determination. "And it's about trust. Trusting that you will do your part to save yourselves. Trusting that we will do ours." The Kryllians nodded, their silence more powerful than any words. Their trust, a fragile thing born from desperation and a flicker of hope, was a burden Aeron held with a heavy heart. The fate of an entire civilization rested on their shoulders, on the gamble he was taking, on the faith he was placing in the Kryllians and their technology. The countdown began. The Kryllian device hummed, its energy fields pulsating, a symphony of light and power. Aeron's fingers tightened around the armrest of his chair, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The air grew thick with anticipation, a tangible pressure that pressed down on the crew of the Hope's End. This was the moment they would decide the fate of the Kryllians, and perhaps the future of humanity's relationship with the vast and indifferent universe. The Hope's End shuddered, bucking against the gravitational forces that tugged at its hull like a child trying to wrest a toy from a giant's grasp. The Kryllian vessel, the Etheria's Hope, was a magnificent, but fragile, testament to their once flourishing civilization. It hummed with unstable energy, a symphony of crackling wires and fluctuating lights that spoke of a desperate struggle to survive. Inside the Etheria's Hope, the Kryllians huddled, their luminous skin shimmering with a barely perceptible fear. They were a race of ethereal beauty, their bodies seemingly crafted from starlight itself. Yet their eyes, now clouded with grief and exhaustion, mirrored the desperation that permeated their ship. Captain Aeron, his face etched with concern, stood beside the Kryllian leader, known as Kaelor, his voice a calming presence in the chaos. "We are here to help," he said, his tone firm but reassuring. "We understand this technology is unlike anything we have ever encountered, but we are willing to learn. We will work together, side by side." The Kryllians, their voices a chorus of low, melodic hums, exchanged glances, their faces etched with doubt. Their trust, frayed by a galaxy that had abandoned them, was a fragile thread. "We have no time for trust," Kaelor replied, his voice resonating with a deep, resonant hum. "The black hole's pull grows stronger with each passing moment. We need to act, and act swiftly. If we fail, we will be consumed." The pressure mounted. Cassian, ever the pragmatist, worked tirelessly alongside the Kryllian engineers, their heads bent over consoles that displayed an array of unfamiliar glyphs and symbols. "This is a technological marvel," he muttered under his breath, his voice a mixture of awe and apprehension. "But it's also unstable. One wrong move, and the entire ship could implode." Ira, her eyes alight with a mixture of fascination and determination, analyzed the intricate details of the Kryllian technology. "Their system is based on a form of energy transfer that harnesses the very essence of black holes," she explained, her voice echoing with the excitement of a scientific discovery. "It's both brilliant and terrifying. The power is immense, but the risk is equally high." Lyra, her antennae twitching with the effort of deciphering the Kryllian communication, found herself drawn to a young Kryllian, her name a melodic hum that Lyra had come to recognize as Ilara. The young Kryllian, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and fear, looked at Lyra with a mixture of caution and hope. And then there was Ryan. His face, usually impenetrable, now reflected a flicker of empathy. The Kryllians, their suffering etched into their very beings, had shattered his initial skepticism. He saw their resilience, their unyielding determination to survive, reflecting a spirit that resonated with his own. The air inside the Hope's End was thick with tension. The countdown had begun. They had to evacuate the Kryllians before the black hole's gravitational pull claimed them. The fate of an entire civilization rested on their shoulders. "Are you ready?" Aeron asked, his voice steady and unwavering. Kaelor, his eyes fixed on the instruments, nodded, his hum a sound that echoed the weight of their shared destiny. "We are ready to face the void, together." The Kryllians, their voices a chorus of hope and fear, joined Kaelor's hum. The Hope's End stood ready. The escape pod was primed, and at the edge of the black hole, a desperate gamble was about to be played. The Hope's End shuddered violently, a wave of nausea rippling through the bridge as the gravity of the black hole gripped the ship, pulling it towards the abyss like a helpless moth drawn to a flame. "Hold steady," Aeron barked, his voice tight with tension as he wrestled with the controls, trying to maintain control of the ship in the turbulent space surrounding the black hole. "We're losing altitude," Gyro yelled, his face pale as he frantically adjusted his instruments. "The black hole's gravity is pulling us in." "Cassian, stabilize the engines," Aeron commanded, his eyes glued to the ship's sensors. "Ira, monitor the Kryllian technology. We need to activate their device now." "We're already at the threshold," Ira informed him, her voice taut with concern. "It's a tight squeeze, but we can get them out of here if we act quickly." Outside, the cosmos twisted and distorted, the black hole a swirling vortex of gravity, light, and time itself, stretching, tearing, and warping the fabric of the universe around it. The sheer power of the black hole, a force of unimaginable magnitude, threatened to crush the Hope's End into a singularity. "Lyra, are you in communication with the Kryllians?" Aeron demanded. "Yes, Captain," Lyra replied, her fingers dancing across the console, her face a mask of intense concentration. "They're ready to activate the device, but they need a signal from the ship to trigger it." "Give them the signal," Aeron commanded, his voice unwavering, "and Cassian, get us as close to the Kryllian vessel as possible." The Kryllian ship, a sleek, organic vessel of advanced technology, was a mere 100 kilometers away, suspended precariously on the edge of the black hole's event horizon. Its hull pulsed with a faint, spectral glow, a testament to the incredible energies swirling around it. "They're activating their device, Captain," Lyra reported. "But it's unstable. The black hole's gravity is messing with the frequencies." "We have to trust them," Aeron said, his gaze hardening as he locked onto the Kryllian vessel. "They're our only hope." The Kryllian device, a marvel of alien engineering, flared to life with a blinding flash of light, its pulsating energy field rippling outwards, defying the pull of the black hole. A wave of relief washed over the bridge as the Kryllian ship began to move, slowly, cautiously, pulling away from the black hole's gravitational pull. "They're doing it, Captain," Gyro exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. "They're escaping the black hole." But the moment of triumph was short-lived. "We're losing contact with the Kryllians," Lyra reported, her voice a whisper. "Their device is overloading. It's unstable." "Cassian, what's our status?" Aeron demanded. "The engines are strained to their limits," Cassian replied, his brow furrowed. "We're losing power fast. We can't hold on much longer. If we don't get out of here, we'll be pulled into the black hole with them." The Hope's End lurched, groaning under the strain of the black hole's gravity, its engines sputtering and wheezing, the crew clinging to their stations as they fought for control of the ship. "Aeron, we need to make a choice," Ira said, her voice calm but firm. "We can't save both the Kryllians and ourselves. We need to choose." Aeron stared towards the Kryllian ship, watching as it struggled against the pull of the black hole, the unstable device flickering and pulsing, its energy field weakening. He could hear the Kryllians' voices, faint but desperate, their pleas for help echoing through the comms. He could see their fear, their desperation, their hope. He could also see the faces of his own crew, their faces etched with fear, their eyes reflecting the terror of the black hole's gravity, the threat of oblivion. Aeron knew what he had to do. "We're going for it, Ira," he said, his voice unwavering. "We're going to save them." And with a final surge of power, the Hope's End plunged into the heart of the black hole, its engines roaring in defiance, its destiny intertwined with the fate of the Kryllians. The Kryllians were a sight to behold, even amidst the vastness of space. Their ship, a testament to their advanced technology, was a marvel of shimmering chrome and intricate energy conduits. But now it was a ghost of its former glory, its sleek hull scarred and its engines sputtering their final breaths. Aeron, his gaze fixed on the Kryllian vessel, felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. The rescue had been a hair-raising ballet of near misses and desperate maneuvers, a constant dance with the insatiable maw of the black hole. He had pushed his crew, and himself, to their limits, relying on their skills and the unyielding hope that fueled their mission. But now they were safe. "Captain," Ira's voice, filled with a subdued excitement, broke through the tense silence. "Their energy signature is stabilizing. It seems our calculations were right." "That's good," Aeron replied, his voice betraying a hint of relief. "But the true test begins now. We need to get them to a safe distance before their engines fail completely." The Kryllians had been hesitant at first, their distrust of other species ingrained after their catastrophic ordeal. But they had gradually come to understand the human crew's intentions, recognizing the sincerity in their actions and words. Even Ryan, his initial skepticism tempered by the Kryllians' unwavering courage, had found himself cautiously accepting their presence. Lyra, ever the bridge between cultures, worked tirelessly to decipher the Kryllians' complex language, creating a makeshift dictionary to bridge the communication gap. She found their language intricate, filled with subtle nuances and layered meanings, reflecting a culture that prized knowledge and understanding above all else. Cassian, the cynic, had surprised even himself with his dedication to the mission. His engineering expertise, coupled with the Kryllians' advanced technology, had proven a potent combination. He had, against his better judgment, grown to admire their ingenuity and their determination to keep their knowledge alive. The Hope's End pulsed with energy, its engines straining to maintain the delicate balance between safety and urgency. Aeron carefully steered the ship away from the black hole's pull, navigating the treacherous currents of space to a safe distance where the Kryllians could regain their strength. "Ira, contact the Kryllians," Aeron ordered. "Tell them we're headed to their designated transit point. We'll let them know the details once we're closer." Ira nodded, her fingers already dancing across the console. The communication was slow, a delicate dance of signals and translated phrases, but it was progress. Aeron, watching the Kryllians' vessel stabilize, felt a flicker of hope. Their ordeal, he knew, was far from over. The Kryllians had lost their home, their history, and a vast portion of their civilization. They were, in essence, refugees in a strange and unfamiliar universe. But they were alive, and that, Aeron thought, was a start that filled him with a sense of purpose as he steered the Hope's End, a beacon in the vast and unforgiving void, towards a new beginning for the Kryllians. The flickering light of Etheria's twin suns cast long shadows across the Hope's End deck. The air, thick with a scent of ozone and the faint, metallic tang of Kryllian technology, vibrated with a tense energy. Aeron, his eyes weary but his resolve unwavering, surveyed the scene. Kryllian engineers, their bodies clad in shimmering, iridescent suits, swarmed around the ship's docking bay, their nimble fingers weaving a web of intricate energy conduits. Behind them, a somber line of Kryllian refugees, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and hope, watched the unfolding scene with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. "It's a miracle they managed to stabilize their tech," Cassian muttered, his voice laced with a grudging admiration. He stood beside Aeron, his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on the Kryllian engineers, a silent testament to the unlikely bond that was forming between the two species. "Indeed," Aeron replied, his gaze sweeping across the Kryllians. "They are a remarkable people." Ira, her face alight with a mixture of relief and apprehension, approached them, a data tablet clutched in her hand. "Captain," she announced, "the Kryllian engineers have been working tirelessly. They've managed to establish a stable energy link between their vessel and Hope's End. The evacuation plan is operational." A wave of relief washed over Aeron. The Kryllians' technology, though advanced, was notoriously unstable, unpredictable. The fact that they had managed to establish a link, a lifeline, to Hope's End was a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. But the danger wasn't over. The black hole's pull was unrelenting, its gravity stronger than ever as they neared the event horizon. Even the slightest misstep could spell disaster. "Good work, Ira," Aeron said, his voice firm, but a flicker of concern danced in his eyes. "But we cannot afford to let our guard down. The black hole's pull is increasing. We have to move quickly." A tense silence descended upon the bridge. The Kryllians, their faces stoic, their eyes reflecting the depth of their loss and the enormity of their plight, watched the humans, their silent observers. Lyra, her heart pounding beneath her chest, approached the Kryllian leader, her voice soft but firm. "We are ready," she said, her eyes meeting the others, a silent reassurance. The Kryllian, his voice a melodic hum, replied, "We trust you, human. We trust you to fulfill your promise." Aeron's heart tightened. The Kryllians' trust, earned through their shared struggle against the black hole's indifference, was a burden he bore heavily. He had made a promise to save them, a promise that carried the weight of the galaxy's expectations, a promise that resonated with the very essence of humanity's compassion. "We will," Aeron said, his voice steady, his resolve unshakable. "We will fulfill our promise." He turned to his crew, his gaze meeting each of their faces, a silent call to action. The gravity of the moment pressed down on them, heavy and real. They were on the precipice of history, poised to defy the odds, to rewrite the narrative of their species. They were the humans, and they were ready to save the Kryllians. The Kryllians, their skin shimmering with an ethereal luminescence, stood before the crew of the Hope's End in the converted cargo bay, a makeshift refugee camp. Despite the safety and comfort of their new surroundings, the air hung heavy with a palpable sense of grief. Their eyes, large and expressive, held a depth of sorrow that touched even Ryan, the most stoic member of the crew. "It is hard to believe," said Ira, her voice filled with empathy, "that a civilization so advanced, with such a rich history, could be brought to the brink of extinction." She gestured towards the Kryllians, their faces etched with the weight of loss, their movements a delicate dance of sadness. "They lost their homeworld, their families, their entire way of life," she continued, her voice filled with a quiet understanding that seemed to resonate with the rescued Kryllians. Lyra, ever the bridge between cultures, translated Ira's words, her voice soft and fluid. A murmur of agreement rippled through the Kryllians, a chorus of sorrow that seemed to echo the emptiness they carried within. "They are trying to rebuild," Lyra added, her gaze meeting Ira's, "but the memories of their past, they are a heavy burden." Aeron, observing the Kryllians, noticed the remnants of their advanced technology scattered across the cargo bay, devices crafted with an elegance that betrayed their chaotic origins. They were testaments to a civilization that had once thrived, now shattered, yet still holding a flicker of hope. "They are a resilient people," Aeron said, his voice firm, his gaze meeting the Kryllians with unwavering respect. "They will find a new home, rebuild their lives, and find a new path." His words, translated by Lyra, seemed to offer a sliver of comfort to the Kryllians. A few of them looked up, their eyes meeting Aeron's with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. Cashin, his usual cynicism muted by the sight of their suffering, approached a Kryllian elder, who sat quietly, staring at a device that pulsed with faint, ethereal light. "What is that, old one?" Cashin asked, his voice softer than usual. The elder, his features etched with age and grief, pointed to the device, his voice a low, rasping hum. "It is a repository," Lyra translated, her voice filled with wonder. a record of their history, their culture, their very existence. The elder's eyes welled with tears, his body trembling slightly. Cassian, his gruff exterior momentarily softened by compassion, gently took the elder's hand. He knew that the device wasn't just a collection of data, but a living archive of a civilization now teetering on the precipice of oblivion. The repository, a testament to their ingenuity and their ability to preserve their essence, held a promise. A promise that, even in the face of immense loss, the Kryllians might reclaim their past and build a future. A future that, despite its uncertain beginning, held the potential for hope. As Aeron observed the Kryllians, a new sense of purpose ignited within him. Their survival was more than just a humanitarian effort. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of a species facing the abyss. He knew that their journey had only just begun, but he was determined to guide them towards a future filled with hope, a future where they could rebuild and thrive. The Kryllians, huddled in their temporary shelter, a massive, prefabricated dome erected on a barren, rocky moon, seemed like phantoms. Their skin, once vibrant with a luminescent blue, now bore the pallor of a dying sun. Their eyes, once bright with an intelligence rivaling the stars, now held a vacant emptiness, reflecting a sorrow as vast as the void they had escaped. Ira, her heart aching for their plight, sat across from Lyra, who, through weeks of tireless effort, had finally begun to crack the code of their complex language. Lyra, her face weary, her eyes glazed over with the intensity of her work, looked up, a flicker of hope momentarily chasing away the shadow of despair. "There's progress," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the Kryllian translator, a device shaped like a swirling vortex of silver veins, pulsing softly with their alien language. "They're starting to communicate. Cautiously, but they're opening up." Ira nodded, her own eyes mirroring the hope that flickered in Lyra's gaze. "What are they saying?" Lyra's brow furrowed, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns on the translator. "They're talking about their home, Etheria. They remember details, vivid ones, colors, textures, sounds, smells. It's as if they can see it all again, as if they're back on their world." "But they're also talking about loss, about the destruction," Ira said softly, her voice filled with a sorrow that mirrored the Kryllians' grief. "They're haunted by the memories, by the cataclysm that ripped them from their world." Aeron, his face grim, entered the dome, his eyes scanning the Kryllians. He had witnessed their despair, felt the weight of their loss, and knew that their journey toward healing was just beginning. "They're still fragile," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "They need time, space, and understanding. We need to be patient, Ira. We need to let them heal." Lyra nodded, a faint smile gracing her lips. "They're starting to look at us, not with fear, but with curiosity. They're noticing our attempts to help, our willingness to be there for them." Ira's eyes met Aeron's, a silent understanding passing between them. "We promised them a safe haven," she said, her voice firm. "A place to rebuild, to heal. We have to keep our promise." Aeron nodded, his gaze shifting to the Kryllians, their mournful figures a silent testament to the fragility of life, the vastness of loss, and the inherent power of human compassion. This was not just a mission anymore, it was a responsibility, a commitment to forge a new path, not just for the Kryllians, but for humanity itself. They had dared to answer a desperate call, and now they had to find the strength within themselves to see it through, to prove that even in the face of cosmic indifference, hope still burned, a beacon in the darkness, a promise whispered across the void. The Hope's End hummed with a newfound vibrancy, a pulse that resonated with the combined energies of both human and Kryllian life. The Kryllians, though still reeling from the trauma of their near extinction, had begun to adapt to their new surroundings. The once empty corridors of the ship now echoed with their soft, melodic voices, their voices weaving a symphony of foreign sounds that both fascinated and challenged the human crew. Ira, with her infectious optimism, spearheaded the efforts to integrate the Kryllians. She organized workshops to teach them basic human customs and social dynamics, using her boundless empathy to bridge the cultural chasm that separated them. Lyra, a natural mediator, had already begun to decipher their complex language, her fingers racing across the console as she deciphered their intricate grammar and syntax. However, the task was far from simple. The Kryllians, despite their advanced technology, were deeply rooted in their own cultural traditions. Many clung to their rituals, their mourning for their lost homeworld, a constant, melancholic thread woven into their daily routines. The human crew, though compassionate, were hesitant to impose their own customs on the Kryllians, recognizing the vast cultural divide that separated them. Cashin, ever the pragmatist, observed the interactions with a critical eye. He had initially viewed the Kryllians with suspicion, but their resilience and grief had begun to chip away at his cynicism. He saw their technology, their complex systems that rivaled anything humanity had ever conceived, as both a marvel and a potential threat. He knew that integrating their unique technology into human society would be a daunting and potentially dangerous undertaking. Ryan, the security officer, was the most apprehensive about the Kryllians' presence. He saw them as fragile, their advanced technology as a double-edged sword. He worried about their ability to adapt to the harsh realities of human society, the constant threat of conflict and prejudice. He spent countless hours patrolling the corridors of the ship, ensuring their safety, his vigilance a constant reminder of the precariousness of their situation. Captain Aeron, despite the challenges, remained steadfast in his belief that the Kryllians deserved a chance to rebuild their civilization. He saw their resilience as a testament to their advanced minds and their deep connection to life. He had witnessed firsthand the depths of their despair, the emptiness in their eyes that spoke of a loss beyond human comprehension. His mission, he knew, was to help them find hope, to show them that humanity, despite their flaws, could offer them a new beginning. One evening, as the crew gathered in the ship's mess hall, Aeron addressed them, his voice calm and steady. "We've come a long way since we pulled the Kryllians from the black hole's grip. We've helped them survive, we've given them shelter, but our work is far from over. We must now help them thrive." He paused, allowing his words to sink in, the quiet hum of the ship's engine setting the tone for his speech. "Integrating them into our society will not be easy. It will require patience, understanding, and a willingness to see beyond our own cultural norms. We must embrace their differences, recognize their strengths, and support them as they navigate a new and unfamiliar world." The crew listened intently, the weight of his words settling over them. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they also knew that the success of this mission would depend on their ability to work together, to bridge the cultural chasm that separated them, and to show the Kryllians that humanity, despite its flaws, could offer them a chance to rebuild their shattered world. The Kryllians, despite their advanced technology, were a people deeply scarred by trauma. Their vibrant city had been reduced to a ghost of its former self, a stark testament to the cataclysm that had driven them to the brink of extinction. Their faces, etched with pain and worry, reflected the weight of their loss, their eyes haunted by the memories of a shattered home. Aeron, watching them from the bridge of the Hope's End, felt a pang of empathy. He understood the pain of loss, the sense of displacement, the yearning for a place to call home. He had seen it firsthand in the faces of refugees fleeing ravaged worlds, their hopes and dreams clinging precariously to the tattered edges of their tattered lives. Ira, ever the optimist, looked at the Kryllians with a mix of fascination and concern. "They are incredibly resilient," she murmured, her voice a soft whisper against the backdrop of the ship's hum. "Despite their suffering, they are determined to rebuild, to find a new beginning." Cashin, his gaze fixed on the Kryllians' makeshift shelter, a stark contrast to their once glorious city, snorted. "They're clinging to hope," he said, his voice laced with cynicism. "But hope, like a dying star, eventually fades." He pointed to the massive, shimmering energy conduits that lined the Kryllian city, now dormant and shrouded in an eerie silence. "They'll never be able to replicate that technology. Their future, like their past, is doomed." Lyra, ever the diplomat, stepped forward, her voice carrying a gentle warmth. "They are still recovering from the trauma of the event," she said, her gaze meeting Cashin's with a steadiness that challenged his cynicism. "It will take time for them to regain their strength, to rebuild their lives. We must give them that time." Ryan, his gaze unwavering, watched the Kryllians cautiously, He was a warrior, a protector, and the sight of their vulnerability stirred within him a protective instinct that bordered on fierce loyalty. "They need more than just time," he said, his voice a rumble that echoed through the bridge. "They need strength, a place to stand their ground, a place to fight back." The Kryllians' presence on the Hope's End had divided the crew. Some, like Ira and Lyra, saw them as a burden and a challenge, an opportunity to reach out and help a grieving species find a new path. Others, like Cashin and Ryan, viewed them with suspicion, their advanced technology a potential threat, their suffering a reminder of the fragility of life, a reminder of their own potential vulnerability. Aeron, a man of action, felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The Kryllians had been thrust upon him, their fate interwoven with his own. He had undertaken this mission, this impossible rescue, driven by a belief in the inherent goodness of humanity, a belief that humanity was capable of reaching out, of helping, of bridging the vast chasm that separated them from other species. But now, as he looked at the faces of the Kryllians, their fear palpable, their future uncertain, he began to question his own beliefs. The galaxy was a vast and unforgiving place, filled with a spectrum of sentience, from the benevolent to the cruel, from the kind to the ruthless. And he, along with his crew, were about to face a challenge unlike any they had ever encountered before. He knew the journey would be fraught with challenges, with doubts, with uncertainties. But he also knew that they were not alone. They had each other, and they had a shared sense of purpose, a shared belief in the power of hope, a shared sense of responsibility to those who needed them most. He met the eyes of his crew, their expressions ranging from hope to anxiety, from certainty to doubt, and he saw in their eyes a reflection of his own. "We'll find a way," he said, his voice firm, his gaze steady. "We'll help them rebuild. We'll find them a new home. We won't let them down." The crew responded with a chorus of affirmations, their voices a testament to their unwavering commitment to the task at hand. But even as they pledged their support, shadows of doubt lingered, unspoken, lurking in the corners of their minds, casting long shadows over the future they were about to build. The tension on the bridge of Hope's End was thick enough to cut with a laser. The Kryllians, their faces etched with a mix of grief and determination, stood before the human crew. Their advanced technology, a testament to their ingenuity, was a source of both fascination and fear for some humans. Aeron, however, stood firm. "We understand your concerns," he said, his voice calm and steady, "but we also believe in the power of cooperation. The Kryllians are not a threat. They are victims, just like we would be if a similar disaster struck our homeworld." Ira, ever the diplomat, stepped forward. "Your technology is impressive," she said, her voice laced with genuine admiration, "and I know there are some who fear it. But fear breeds suspicion, and suspicion leads to conflict. We must overcome our fears and learn to work together. We can learn from each other, build bridges, and find solutions." The Kryllians, despite being emotionally drained and traumatized, listened intently. Their language, a complex symphony of clicks and whistles, was translated by Lyra, who had made incredible strides in deciphering it. Her soft voice filled the bridge, a soothing melody in the face of the mounting anxieties. "We appreciate your willingness to help," said Kyra, their leader, a slender figure with eyes that held a world of sorrow. "But we are weary, broken. Our people need time to heal, to rebuild." "We understand," Aeron replied, his gaze never leaving Kyra's. "We will give you the space you need. But we also hope that you will allow us to help. We have resources, knowledge, and most importantly, a shared desire to see you thrive." Cashin, his gruff exterior finally cracking, added, "We may be different, but we share the same universe. We all have a stake in its future." The Kryllians, touched by the sincerity of the humans, lowered their heads in a gesture of respect. Their voices, translated by Lyra, echoed in the bridge, a soft murmur of agreement. "We are grateful for your offer," Kyra said. "We will consider it." Aeron, sensing a shift in the tense atmosphere, directed his attention to the navigation console. "Gyro, prepare for departure to the designated Kryllian refugee camp. We'll depart at dawn." As the Hope's End lifted off the Kryllian homeworld, Aeron watched the receding planet, a silent testament to a civilization on the brink of collapse. The Kryllians had lost their home, their families, their history. They were adrift, refugees in their own universe. Yet, they held on to the faint flicker of hope, a spark that ignited a quiet flame of optimism within Aeron. He turned to Ira, who stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "We have a lot of work ahead of us," he said, a hint of weariness in his voice. Ira smiled, a radiant light in the shadows of the bridge. "Yes," she agreed, "but we also have the chance to make a difference, to build something new, something better. We are no longer just explorers, Captain. We are builders, healers, and most importantly, friends." And as the hope's end sliced through the cosmos, a new chapter began, a chapter where hope, understanding, and the resilience of the human spirit promised to bridge the divides of a vast and unforgiving universe. Aeron watched as the Kryllians gathered around a large, shimmering sphere, their forms shifting and coalescing within its translucent boundaries. It hummed with an energy that set the hairs on the back of his neck on end, a palpable force that seemed to speak of both power and fragility. Ira, her face alight with a mix of awe and apprehension, stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "They're going to share their knowledge, Captain," Ira said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "They called it a shard of Etheria, a repository of their civilization's collective history, their science, their art." The Kryllians, still struggling to rebuild the shattered remnants of their society, had made a decision that surprised even the most optimistic members of the Hope's End crew. They had chosen to share their most precious treasure, a piece of their very being, a testament to their dedication to their lost home. "This isn't just a scientific marvel, Captain," Ira continued, her gaze fixed on the resonating sphere. "It's a gift, a gesture of trust. It shows they believe in us, in our capacity to learn, to understand, to carry on their legacy." The room was filled with a low, humming resonance, the air itself seeming to thrum with an unseen energy. Lyra, her brow furrowed in concentration, translated the intricate Kryllian language, her voice echoing throughout the room. "They say it is a symbol, a bridge, a reminder of what they have lost and what they still have to offer," Lyra said, her voice filled with a reverence that was contagious. Aeron looked at the Kryllians, their forms moving within the sphere like dancing lights, their faces filled with a mix of sorrow and hope. It was a sight that stirred something deep inside him, a sense of responsibility that went far beyond the call of duty. "We'll honor their trust," Aeron said, his voice firm but gentle. "We'll do everything we can to understand what they have given us, and to ensure that their legacy lives on." Cashin, his brow furrowed in skepticism, approached the Kryllians with a hesitant step. He had witnessed their sorrow firsthand, had felt the weight of their loss, and had seen the glimmer of their hope. He was not one for sentimentality, but even he had to admit that this was something profound. "What's it do, this shard of Etheria?" Cashin asked, his voice gruff but sincere. "Does it make popcorn?" The Kryllians, their gestures slow and deliberate, responded through Lyra. "It contains the collective knowledge of our civilization," Lyra translated. "It holds stories, history, science, art, and even the blueprints of our technology." Cashin's eyes widened, his cynicism momentarily forgotten. "Blueprints?" he rasped, his voice suddenly infused with a spark of curiosity. "I thought you said your technology was unstable, even dangerous." The Kryllians nodded slowly, their faces etched with a mixture of regret and determination. "We are a flawed people," Lyra translated, "but we are also a people who are willing to learn, to grow, to evolve. We hope that through this gift, our mistakes can become lessons for others." Aeron took a step closer to the sphere, his gaze fixed on the Kryllians within. He felt a sense of responsibility, a weight that was both thrilling and daunting. The Kryllians were entrusting humanity with their future, and Aeron knew that he, along with the rest of his crew, had a duty to uphold that trust. "We will learn," Aeron said, his voice unwavering. "We will learn from your knowledge, and we will carry on your legacy." The Kryllians, their forms flickering within the sphere, smiled back, a gesture of gratitude that spoke volumes. It was a promise, a pact forged in a shared sense of loss and hope. In that moment, amidst the ruins of a lost civilization, humanity had been given a gift, and Aeron, with a newfound sense of purpose, knew that they would not let it go to waste. Cashin, his brow furrowed in concentration, adjusted a dial on the Kryllian energy conduit, the hum of the machine vibrating through his bones. Despite his initial skepticism, he found himself oddly captivated by the alien technology. While the Kryllians struggled to grasp the intricacies of human language, Cashin had discovered a shared tongue, the language of engineering. "It's incredible," he muttered, his gruff voice tinged with awe. "This entire system runs on a single, self-sustaining energy source. They've mastered something we're only beginning to tinker with." The Kryllian engineer, whose name Ira had painstakingly learned to pronounce as Kalar, nodded, a glimmer of pride in his luminescent eyes. He had been assigned to work alongside Cashin, and they had forged a surprisingly strong bond over the shared language of calculations and schematics. "Their tech is brilliant, but it's fragile," Ira chimed in, her gaze lingering on Kalar's face. She had been instrumental in bridging the communication gap, translating the Kryllian language and explaining human customs. "They need to stabilize the energy core before it can power anything." "I'm working on it," Cashin grunted, his hands moving with practiced ease. "But it's like trying to repair a broken clock with a hammer. This technology is so alien, it's almost humbling." Ira smiled, a warmth radiating from her. "That's the beauty of it, Cashin. It forces us to challenge our own assumptions, to see the universe in a new light." "Maybe," Cashin snorted, his cynicism never fully extinguished. "But right now, all I see is a lot of blinking lights and a whole lot of pressure to get this thing working." The weight of responsibility pressed on him. The Kryllian's fate rested on his shoulders, and alongside it, the hopes of Hope's End and the trust they had earned. He couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency, a gnawing fear that the time they were allotted was slipping away. "Cashin," Lyra's voice broke through the tense silence, her tone gentle yet firm. "Have you considered using the Kryllian crystals? They're supposed to be energy amplifiers. Maybe they could help stabilize the core." Cashin paused, his hands hovering over the controls. "Lyra, you know those crystals are volatile. One wrong move and we could have a supernova on our hands." "I understand," Lyra said, her voice unwavering. "But the Kryllians have told me they're the key to their technology. They believe these crystals hold the answer to their survival." Cashin looked at Kalar, who nodded, his eyes filled with a desperate hope. The choice was clear. Despite the risks, they had to trust the Kryllians, trust their technology, trust their knowledge. It was the only way to help them, the only way to fulfill the promise they had made. Cashin took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. He activated the Kryllian crystals, their ethereal glow illuminating the room, and a wave of energy pulsed through the conduit, the hum of the machine increasing in intensity. For a moment, everything seemed to hold its breath. Then, the energy core flickered, a brilliant light radiating from its center. "It's working!" Ira cried out, her eyes widening in astonishment. The Kryllians cheered, their voices resonating with a mixture of relief and joyous anticipation. Aeron entered the chamber, his expression a mix of concern and cautious optimism. "Cashin, what's happening, Cashin?" His face, etched with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, pointed to the energy core. "It's stabilizing. The crystals are working." Aeron nodded, the weight of his responsibilities momentarily eased by this small victory. "Excellent work, Cashin. You and Kalar have done something remarkable." The Kryllians, their faces aglow with a newfound hope, gathered around the conduit, their voices a chorus of gratitude and awe. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, they had a glimmer of hope. They had dared to believe in a future where humans and Kryllians, two vastly different species, could find a way to overcome their differences and forge a common destiny. And they were determined, together, to make that future a reality. Lyra leaned back in her chair, fingers tracing the intricate curves of the Kryllian translator device. The device, a marvel of alien engineering, pulsed with a soft, blue light, humming subtly in rhythm with the alien language it deciphered. Around her, the Kryllian refugee camp buzzed with a low hum of activity. The rescued Kryllians, their once elegant forms now bearing the marks of their ordeal, were slowly rebuilding their society. The task of communication was a difficult one. The Kryllian language, a symphony of clicks, whistles, and melodic hums, seemed as complex and alien as their advanced technology. Lyra, with her passion for linguists and her natural ability to connect with others, was painstakingly bridging the gap between human and Kryllian. "I think I'm making progress," Lyra said, her voice tinged with a touch of excitement. "They're starting to understand some of our basic phrases. I'm even getting a few responses back. It's slow going, but it's progress." Aeron, ever vigilant, watched the Kryllians from the observation deck. He had seen the fear and uncertainty in their eyes, the echoes of their trauma etched on their faces. He understood their reluctance. Trust was a fragile thing, and they had been betrayed by their own kind, abandoned to their fate. Aeron had made it his mission to prove that humanity was different, that their desire to help was sincere, not a ploy for personal gain. "They're still wary," Aeron said, his voice a low rumble. "But they're also starting to see that we're not the same as the others. We're trying to help them rebuild." "That's why I think building a common language is so important," Lyra replied, her eyes lit with a fervent zeal. "Language is a bridge. It allows us to understand each other, to share our knowledge, our fears, our hopes. It's the foundation for trust, for understanding." Cashin, always the cynic, watched the Kryllians from the corner of the observation deck. He was skeptical of the Kryllians, their advanced technology, and their sudden appearance. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. "Don't get too carried away," Cashin said, his voice laced with skepticism. "We still don't know what they're really capable of. Their technology is far beyond ours. What happens when they decide to use it against us?" "Cashin, you need to give them a chance," Aeron retorted, his voice firm but patient. "They've lost everything. They're vulnerable. We need to show them that we can be trusted. The Kryllians need our help. They need to know that there are those in the galaxy who still believe in compassion." The Kryllians, sensing the tension between the human crew, huddled together, their forms shimmering with an ethereal light. Their eyes met Lyra's, and something passed between them, a flicker of hope, a hesitant step towards trust. It was a small step, but it was a start. Ira, her heart filled with optimism, joined Lyra in the communications center. Ira had a gift for understanding different species, an ability to see the humanity in even the most alien beings. She saw the potential in the Kryllians, the remnants of a great civilization that could rebuild and thrive in this new world. "Lyra, how is it going?" Ira asked, her voice filled with a genuine warmth that calmed the tense atmosphere. Lyra smiled. "It's coming along. I think I'm finally making a connection with them. They're starting to understand the concept of thank you and welcome. It's a small step, but I believe it's a significant one." "It is," Ira agreed. "We need to build trust and understanding with them. We need to help them rebuild their society, to find their place in this new world. And we need to learn from them, to understand their technology, their culture, their history." Lyra nodded. "That's why I'm so focused on language. Language is the key, the bridge that will allow us to connect with them on a deeper level." As the Kryllians continued to rebuild, a new language, a blend of human and Kryllian, started to emerge, a testament to the power of communication and the potential for understanding even amongst the stars. The Kryllians, with their advanced technology and unique culture, were gradually finding their place in human society, their resilience and determination inspiring the human crew of the Hope's End, and reminding them of the vast potential for unity that lay hidden within the vast expanse of the galaxy. The air hung heavy with the scent of ozone and the hum of Kryllian technology, a discordant symphony that echoed through the makeshift refugee camp. Ryan watched the Kryllians, their slender forms moving with a fluid grace that belied the trauma etched upon their faces. He was still wary of them, their advanced technology a constant reminder of the chasm that separated human and Kryllian. Cashin, ever the pragmatist, had set up a training ground for the Kryllian warriors. They were a sight to behold, their movements honed through millennia of combat experience. Yet their eyes held a haunted emptiness, the reflection of a civilization shattered, their purpose lost. "They're good," Ryan grunted, his gaze fixed on a Kryllian warrior executing a series of precise strikes with a shimmering energy sword. "They were," Cashin corrected, his voice laced with a hint of sadness. "They were the best. Now they're just ghosts of what they were." Ryan felt a pang of empathy. He'd seen too much loss in his life, too much violence. He understood the weight of their grief. He understood their reluctance to trust. "They'll learn," he said, his voice firm. "They'll find their purpose again." "Hope is a powerful weapon," Cashin said, a wry smile playing on his lips. "But it's no substitute for a good blaster." Ryan ignored him, watching as the Kryllian warrior, his face drawn and his eyes filled with a flicker of the old fire, spoke to the others in his low, melodic language. Lyra, her translator device whirring softly, translated his words. "He speaks of his oath," Lyra said, her voice soft. "He swore to protect his people, to fight for their survival. He feels he has failed." "He still carries the weight of his oath," Ryan said, understanding dawning on him. "It's not just about fighting. It's about loyalty, about commitment." He watched as the Kryllian warrior, his eyes now burning with a renewed determination, raised his energy sword high. A silent vow passed between the warrior and his comrades, a promise of resilience, of hope, a promise to rebuild their shattered world. Ryan felt a flicker of respect for these warriors, for their strength and their unwavering sense of duty, even in the face of despair. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for them to find their way back. Maybe, just maybe, they could learn to trust again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the training ground, Ryan walked over to Cashin, who was tinkering with a complex Kryllian device. "You think they'll make it?" Ryan asked, his voice quieter than usual. Cashin looked up, his eyes filled with a rare glimpse of hope. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe they will." Ryan nodded, unable to articulate the feeling of hope that had begun to bloom within him. He knew their journey was far from over, but for the first time since the Kryllians arrived, he dared to believe that they could find a future where they could rebuild their world, their culture, their lives. A future where they could learn to trust again, not just in themselves, but in each other. He felt a sense of responsibility, a responsibility that extended beyond his duty to the human crew. He was now bound to the Kryllians by a shared sense of loss, a shared sense of struggle, and a shared hope for a better tomorrow. The Kryllians had chosen well. The planet, a vibrant tapestry of swirling blues and greens, pulsed with an energy that resonated with their very being. It was a world of rolling hills and shimmering lakes, a symphony of buzzing insects and chirping birds, a haven of peace after the chaos of the black hole's edge. Ira, her face alight with a sense of accomplishment, stood beside Aeron on the bridge of the Hope's End, gazing out at the alien world. "They're already starting to build," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Aeron nodded, his eyes reflecting the planet's beauty. "They've been through so much, but they haven't lost their hope. They're determined to rebuild their society, to create a future for their children." A fleet of Kryllian vessels, shimmering with an ethereal luminescence, circled the planet, their intricate designs a testament to the Kryllian genius. These vessels were not weapons of war, but tools of creation designed to cultivate and shape the planet, to nurture life and build a new home for their people. Cashin, who had been skeptical about the entire mission from the beginning, now stood beside them, a grudging smile playing at his lips. "I'll admit, I underestimated them," he confessed, his voice betraying a newfound respect. "They're more than just advanced technology. They're resilient, resourceful, and they're determined to survive." Lyra, her eyes wide with wonder, watched the Kryllians interact with the planet, their movements graceful and precise, their technology intertwined with the natural world. "It's like they're dancing with the planet," she said, her voice filled with a sense of awe. "Their technology is so different from ours, so much more fluid. It feels as if it's part of the planet itself." Ryan, his gaze hardened by years of protecting the crew, watched the Kryllians with a mixture of caution and admiration. "They're strong," he conceded, his voice rough but respectful. "They've faced the abyss and emerged stronger. They're not afraid of the challenges ahead." The crew of the Hope's End had witnessed a miracle. They had seen a civilization on the brink of oblivion rise again, fueled by hope and a deep-seated desire to live. They had seen a people who had lost everything find a new beginning, a new home, a new purpose. Aeron felt a deep sense of pride, not just for his crew, but for humanity. They had dared to help when others had turned away. They had shown compassion and courage in the face of the unknown. They had proven that even in a vast and unforgiving universe, there was still room for kindness, for hope, for the shared dream of a brighter future. The Hope's End, its purpose fulfilled, stood ready to depart, its silhouette a beacon of hope against the backdrop of the alien sky. But before they left, Aeron and the crew gathered on the bridge, their faces illuminated by the planet's soft, ethereal glow. "We came here to rescue a dying civilization," Aeron said, his voice low and steady. "But we leave knowing that we have witnessed a rebirth. We have seen a people find a new home, a new purpose. We have seen humanity at its best." The crew stood in silence, each member reflecting on the transformative journey they had shared, the bonds they had forged with the Kryllians, the lessons they had learned about the resilience of the human spirit. The Hope's End was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's capacity for compassion, a testament to their unwavering belief in the power of hope, a vessel that had dared to venture into the unknown, and in doing so, had discovered the true meaning of heroism. The Kryllians, their ethereal forms shimmering with a soft luminescence, stood huddled together on the deck of Hope's End, their faces a tapestry of grief and apprehension. The vast, alien sky of their new home planet stretched above them, a stark contrast to the familiar, vibrant blue of Etheria. Aeron, his usual stoic composure softened by a wave of empathy, watched them. The Kryllians, once a beacon of technological advancement, were now fragile, their spirits wounded by the tragedy that had driven them from their home. "This is it," Lyra announced, her voice filled with a quiet determination. She had spent countless hours translating their language, patiently bridging the vast cultural chasm that separated them. "This is where we begin." The Kryllians, guided by Ira's gentle encouragement, cautiously disembarked from the ship, their feet touching the alien soil for the first time. They moved with a hesitant grace, like specters lost in a strange, unfamiliar world. The Kryllian refugees were not the only ones struggling to adapt. Hope's End had been hailed as a symbol of humanity's compassion, a testament to their daring rescue mission. But the presence of the Kryllians, with their advanced technology and distinct societal structures, stirred unease among certain factions within human society. The whispers of fear and distrust echoed throughout their new home. "We can't let them be afraid of us," Ira said, her voice resolute, her gaze fixed on the Kryllians. "We have to show them that we are not a threat, that we are here to help them rebuild." Cashin, his cynical facade cracked, for once agreed. He had witnessed firsthand the trauma the Kryllians had endured, their collective grief palpable even to his stoic nature. "We can't just drop them off in a new place and expect them to magically adapt," he said, the gruffness of his tone softening. "We owe them more than that." Aeron, his gaze fixed on the Kryllians, knew that this was no longer simply a rescue mission. This was a commitment, a promise to help them rebuild, to provide a sanctuary for them as they mourned their past and embraced their uncertain future. The task ahead was daunting, a monumental endeavor that would demand the combined strengths of both human and Kryllian. But the crew of Hope's End was determined. They had dared to reach out to the Kryllians when no other species would, and they would not abandon them now. This was the dawn of a new chapter, a testament to the enduring power of hope and the boundless potential of human compassion. The Kryllians, a spectral haze of blue and silver, moved with a quiet grace across the newly constructed city, their forms shimmering like heat waves in the midday sun. Their city, a testament to their resilience, was a tapestry of glass and metal, a breathtaking fusion of Kryllian and human architecture. The towering spires, once beacons of a lost civilization, now stood as symbols of hope, of a future forged from the ashes of a devastating past. Aeron stood on the balcony of his quarters, overlooking the city. He watched the Kryllians, their faces etched with a serenity that was hard-won, their eyes reflecting the newfound peace they had found on this distant world. Their laughter, a melodic hum that resonated through the air, was a symphony of rebirth. Aeron felt a profound sense of contentment wash over him, a feeling as warm and familiar as the sun on his skin. He turned to see Ira, her face alight with a gentle smile, standing beside him. "They've come a long way, haven't they?" she said softly, her voice echoing the quiet joy that filled the air. Aeron nodded. "They have. They've found a home, a place where they can rebuild, where they can heal." He paused, his gaze lingering on the Kryllians below. "We've been lucky to be a part of their journey." "We've all learned a lot," Ira said, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of their shared experience. "Not just about them, but about ourselves." They fell silent, their thoughts turning inward, revisiting the memories of their harrowing journey. The perilous voyage through the black hole's gravitational pull, the tense negotiations with the Kryllians, the struggle to bridge the gulf of their different languages and cultures. The moments of doubt, the moments of fear, the moments of triumph. "Cassian was right," Aeron said with a chuckle, breaking the silence. "He said this would be a mission we'd never forget." "He was right," Ira agreed, a hint of mischief in her tone. "And I believe he even said it would change us." Aeron smiled. "He was right about that too." They watched as Cassian, his usual cynical grin softened by a rare tenderness, worked alongside a group of Kryllians, his hands deftly manipulating tools as they collaborated on a project. "He's become quite attached to them," Ira observed, her voice laced with amusement. "They've brought out a side of him we never knew existed," Aeron said, shaking his head in admiration. "Who knew that beneath that gruff exterior beat a heart of gold?" Ira laughed lightly. "They've done the same for all of us, haven't they?" she said, her gaze turning towards the Kryllian city. "We've all grown, all changed. We've faced the unknown, the terrifying, and we've emerged stronger, more compassionate, more understanding." Aeron nodded, his gaze lingering on the Kryllians below, their forms shimmering in the fading light. "We've learned that even in the darkest corners of the universe, there is always hope," he said, his voice filled with a profound sense of peace. "And that humanity," Ira added, meeting his gaze, "is capable of great things." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a symphony of vibrant hues. The city, a fusion of two worlds, shimmered in the fading light, a testament to the power of empathy and the beauty of unity. The Hope's End, a silent sentinel, stood watch over the new home of the Kryllians, its presence a symbol of the enduring bond between two species united by a shared experience, a shared hope. The news reached Earth like a whisper on the wind, traveling faster than light across the vast distances of the cosmos. Humanity, a species once considered insignificant in the galaxy's grand scale, had done the impossible. They had rescued an alien civilization from the brink of oblivion. The Kryllians, their advanced technology and vibrant culture once shrouded in mystery, had become a beacon of hope, a testament to human compassion in a universe often characterized by indifference. The media frenzy was deafening, a cacophony of voices from every corner of the globe, all clamoring for a piece of the story. Aeron, his weathered face more relaxed than usual, sat in the captain's chair of the Hope's End, watching the newsfeed with a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had known the mission was a gamble, a leap of faith in humanity's capacity for empathy, but he had also known, deep down, that it was the right thing to do. "So, they're finally taking notice," Cassian remarked, his gruff voice breaking the silence. He had never been one for the spotlight, preferring the company of his tools and the quiet hum of the Hope's End engine. But even his hardened cynicism couldn't fully mask the pride he felt for his crew and their achievement. "They had to," Ira said, a warm smile gracing her features. "It's a story that couldn't be ignored. Humanity has shown the galaxy that we are capable of more than just self-preservation." Lyra, always the diplomat, added, "It's a message of hope, Cassian. A message that even in the darkest corners of the universe, there is still room for compassion." The bridge lights flickered as a new message arrived, a transmission from the Kryllian ship, the Dawn. "It's a request," Lyra announced, her expression a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "The Kryllians want to meet with you, Captain. They want to thank you personally for their rescue." Aeron felt a surge of warmth. He had always found the Kryllians an intriguing race, their complex culture and advanced technology a constant source of fascination. Yet, it was their fragility, their vulnerability in the face of their own technological prowess, that had touched his heart. He nodded. "Relay the message. We'll meet them in orbit of their new home." As Hope's End shifted course towards the Kryllians' new homeworld, a vibrant, verdant planet with a unique and captivating atmosphere, Aeron couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity's actions, and Aeron knew that the world was watching, waiting to see what came next. The Kryllians, battered and broken by their ordeal, were rebuilding their society, their advanced technology a testament to their resilience. But it was the spirit of hope, kindled by the actions of a small crew of humans, that shone brightest. It was a spirit that promised a future where humanity was not just a player on the galactic stage, but a force for good, a beacon of hope in the vast and often unpredictable cosmos. Aeron stood before the council, a sea of faces, some familiar, others alien, all watching him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. The council chamber, a sprawling, circular hall with shimmering walls that reflected the stars of 1,000 galaxies, felt more like a stage than a place of diplomatic discourse. "Captain Aeron," began the counselor, a being with skin the color of twilight and eyes that shimmered like captured starlight. "Your actions, your courage, have set an example for all sentient beings across the galaxy." Aeron shifted uneasily, his rough hands clasped behind his back. He didn't like the pomp, the praise, the feeling of being put on display. He'd just done what needed to be done, what any human would have done. "We had a job to do," he said, his voice gruff. "A distress call, a civilization in need. It was the right thing to do." "But the Kryllians," the counselor continued, "they were on the brink of oblivion. Every other race, every other species, deemed them a lost cause, yet you, Captain, you saw something they didn't. You saw hope, even in the face of despair." Aeron felt a warmth spread through him, not from the praise, but from something deeper, a sense of pride that swelled within his chest. A small, quiet pride for his crew, for their actions, for their unwavering belief in humanity's capacity for good. "We're humans," Aeron said, looking at the faces in the chamber. "We don't give up on each other." "Indeed," said a voice from the side of the chamber, a voice that sent a shiver down Aeron's spine. It was General Thor, a leader from the powerful Valorian Empire, known for its ruthless efficiency and its disdain for humanity. His words, though seemingly neutral, held a sharp edge. "It seems that sometimes even the most desperate of situations can be rescued by those you least expect." Aeron looked at Thor, his eyes unwavering, holding the general's icy gaze. "Sometimes," Aeron replied, "it's the unexpected that brings about the most positive change." The counselor cleared his throat. "Captain Aeron, the galactic community owes you a debt of gratitude. You have shown us all what it truly means to be a hero." Aeron felt a smile tug at his lips. He knew he wasn't a hero, just a captain who followed his heart. But he saw the way the other representatives, the beings from across the galaxy, now looked at him, not with disdain or suspicion, but with a newfound respect, a flicker of hope. And that, Aeron realized, was more rewarding than any medal or title. He had earned something far more valuable, a chance for humanity to be seen not as a reckless species, but as a beacon of hope in a galaxy that desperately needed one. The Kryllian city shimmered under the twin suns of their new home, a testament to their resilience and the tireless efforts of the Hope's End crew. Ira, gazing out from the observation deck, felt a wave of pride mixed with a lingering sense of awe. The Kryllians, once teetering on the brink of oblivion, now thrived, their advanced technology weaving a tapestry of vibrant light and energy across the cityscape. "A sight no one thought we'd ever see," Aeron's voice, deep and gravelly, came from beside her. "They've taken to this place like fish to water." Ira turned, a smile softening her features. "They're learning quickly, Captain. Lyra's been working tirelessly with them, teaching them their new languages and customs." "Lyra is a prodigy," Aeron agreed, a hint of admiration in his voice. "She's not only bridging the language gap, but building a new language for Kryllian and human interactions. It's amazing to watch. Their conversation was interrupted by a chime, the melodic sound of the Hope's End communicator. Ira activated the comm panel, the holographic projection of Lyra's face filling the screen. Her expression was a mixture of excitement and concern. "We have a situation, Captain," Lyra reported. "The Kryllians are experiencing a hiccup with their technology." "Hiccup? How so?" Aeron inquired, his brow furrowed. "Well, it seems a few of the Kryllian energy conduits are overloading. They're not sure why, but they need help." "Cashin's the best man for the job," Aeron said, his gaze turning to the chief engineer, who was absorbed in a holographic display of his own. "Already on my way, Captain," Cashin said, his voice laced with a hint of dry amusement. "Hope I haven't missed the fun." He gestured towards his console, a mischievous glint in his eye. "I've got a few modifications I've been itching to try out." Ira watched as Cashin and Ryan, his imposing figure radiating confidence, strode towards the docking bay. The Kryllian situation, while a challenge, had forged a bond between the two. Their initial distrust had melted away, replaced by mutual respect and an unlikely friendship. "Ryan's been invaluable to the Kryllians," Aeron observed, his voice laced with a newfound respect for the stoic security officer. "He's helped build a sense of security for them, especially when it comes to their tech. Those Kryllians are still wary of the outside world." Ira nodded, her gaze following the two figures as they boarded the shuttle. "They've been through so much. It's understandable that they're hesitant to trust anyone, even after all we've done for them." "That's why we're here," Aeron said, his voice firm and unwavering. "We're here to help them rebuild, to help them find their place in the galaxy. It's the least we can do, after all they've lost." The shuttle took off, a small silver speck against the backdrop of the vibrant Kryllian city. Ira watched as it disappeared into the horizon, the image lingering in her mind. This wasn't just a mission, it was a testament to human compassion, a beacon of hope in a vast and often indifferent universe. Their journey wasn't over. They had a long way to go, many hurdles to overcome, but they had proven humanity's capacity for selflessness, their willingness to help those in need, even across the vast expanse of the galaxy. The Hope's End crew, forever bound by their shared experience, stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Kryllians would find their new home, and humanity would forever be known as the species that dared to reach out, the species that dared to help, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. Cashin's brow furrowed as he peered at the intricate network of wires and conduits that sprawled across the workbench. Beside him, a Kryllian named Cal, his skin a shimmering shade of silver, meticulously repaired a small, intricately crafted device. Kel's long, slender fingers moved with a practiced grace, an agility that belied the fragility of the device. "What in the galactic expanse is that thing, anyway?" Cashin grunted, his usual gruffness tempered by a newfound curiosity. "Looks like a miniature Stargate, but it doesn't resemble any Kryllian technology I've seen before." Kel paused, his large, amber eyes flashing with a spark of amusement. "It is not a Stargate, but a device of great power and delicate balance. We call it a kawi, a conduit of energy, capable of amplifying and directing power flows." He pointed to a small, shimmering crystal embedded in the device. The crystal serves as a focus point, channeling the energy into specific frequencies. Cashin's cynicism, usually a potent shield against the unknown, began to crumble. He found himself drawn to Kel's passion, the quiet intensity that permeated the Kryllian as he spoke of his technology. Cashin, a master engineer himself, felt a pang of envy, a recognition of his own limitations. "But why build such a thing?" Cashin asked, picking up a small, metallic object that resembled a miniature sphere. Kel's face grew somber. "We were rebuilding, Cashin. We were reconstructing the very foundations of our civilization. The Kali were designed to harness energy from the stars, to power our cities, our ships, our very lives." His voice dropped to a whisper. "The Kali were supposed to be our salvation, a gateway to a new era. But then—" He trailed off, the pain of his people's loss etched into every line of his face. Cashin, feeling the weight of the unspoken tragedy, gently placed the metallic sphere back on the workbench. He understood the Kryllians' pain, their yearning for a future that had been snatched away. "We're here to help," Cashin said, his voice softer than usual. "We're here to build a future, not just rebuild a past." Kel looked up, his amber eyes searching Cashin's. He saw the genuine concern beneath the engineer's gruff exterior, the flicker of empathy that had begun to replace cynicism. "We need someone who understands," Kel said, a small smile playing on his lips. "Someone who can help us restore what was lost." Cashin nodded, a sense of purpose settling within him. He wasn't just an engineer, he was a builder, a creator. And he had found a new purpose, a new challenge, in the Kryllians' plight. With a shared determination, Cashin and Kel fell back into their work, the whirring of tools and the hum of energy resonating within the Kryllian refugee camp. They were rebuilding more than just a device. They were rebuilding a future, piece by piece, connection by connection. The Kryllians and the humans, bound by circumstance and a shared desire for a brighter tomorrow, were forging a bond that transcended language, species, and the vastness of the cosmos. The Kryllians had found a new home, an uncharted planet nestled in a quiet corner of the galaxy. It was a world of shimmering oceans, verdant forests, and towering mountains that mirrored their homeworld's beauty, albeit with a different, yet familiar, song. They thrived within their new environment, rebuilding their society with the help of their human friends. Lyra, ever the linguist, found herself immersed in the Kryllians' language, a symphony of clicks, hisses, and melodic tones that spoke of their rich history and complex culture. She spent countless hours translating their ancient texts, piecing together their myths and legends, weaving a tapestry of their civilization. As the Kryllians rebuilt their cities, Lyra worked tirelessly, her voice a bridge between two worlds, allowing them to share their thoughts, their fears, their hopes for the future. Her work proved vital, not just for the Kryllians, but also for their neighbors. The planet they had chosen was not isolated. It was part of a small cluster of planets inhabited by a diverse array of species. Lyra's translations became a key to understanding, to building trust. She was the voice of the Kryllians, the one who helped them navigate the complex social landscape of their new home. One day, as Lyra sat in the Kryllians' central library, a complex structure built from shimmering crystals that pulsed with a soft, ethereal light, a message arrived from their neighboring species, the Velar. It was an invitation to a gathering, a celebration of peace and unity following a recent conflict between their two species. Lyra translated the message, her fingers moving with confidence across the intricate crystalline displays. "They've invited us to join their celebration," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "They seem eager to make amends for their past actions." The Kryllians gathered around her, their faces etched with a mixture of hope and apprehension. The Velar had been reluctant to help them, even skeptical of the truth of their plight. It seemed too good to be true, this sudden change of heart. Aeron, now a close friend to the Kryllians, spoke in a reassuring voice. "The Velar have witnessed the changes in their own society," he explained. "They have begun to understand the importance of compassion, of unity. This gathering is a symbol of that newfound understanding." The Kryllians, their faith in humanity restored, nodded in agreement. They knew that they were not alone, that the galaxy held a potential for peace and understanding. As Lyra translated the message, a sense of peace and hope settled over the Kryllian library. "Let us go," said one of the Kryllian elders, his voice tinged with a newfound confidence. "Let us show the Velar that we are a people of peace, that we seek only to share our knowledge and to build a brighter future together." Lyra smiled, a small, radiant spark in the soft, crystal light of the library. The Kryllians were ready to take their first step into their new home, ready to embrace their new neighbors, ready to build a future filled with hope. The galaxy, once a place of fear and uncertainty, was about to be painted with a new hue, a hue of understanding and unity. Lyra, the bridge between worlds, was ready to be a part of it. The Kryllians had found their new home Etheria, a vibrant world teeming with life. It was a stark contrast to their ravaged homeworld, yet its beauty held a poignant echo of what they had lost. The Kryllians, resilient as ever, had begun to rebuild. Their advanced technology, once fueled by the dying remnants of their sun, now thrived on Etheria's abundant solar energy. The human crew of the Hope's End watched with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. They had witnessed the Kryllians' sorrow, their struggles to adapt to a new world, but also their indomitable spirit. Ryan, the former security officer, now stood watch over Etheria, a silent guardian to its new inhabitants. He had earned their trust, his initial skepticism replaced by a grudging respect. "You know," Cashin said, his voice softer than usual as he joined Ryan on the balcony overlooking the Kryllian city. "They're adapting. They're even smiling." Ryan tilted his head, his eyes fixed on the city's twinkling lights. "I thought you were a cynic, Cashin. Surprised you think there's any point in smiling after what they've been through." "Maybe I was wrong about a few things," Cashin replied, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Maybe it's not all doom and gloom. Maybe there's hope for these Kryllians." Ryan chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. "Hope is a dangerous thing, Cashin. It can blind you to the harsh realities of the universe." "Maybe," Cashin said, his gaze widening as he saw a Kryllian child, his body shimmering with a delicate light. "But maybe it's the only thing that keeps us going." The Kryllian child, his eyes filled with youthful wonder, floated towards a small, shimmering orb, a Kryllian device designed to harness Etheria's energy. He reached out and touched it, and the orb pulsed with a soft, blue light. Ryan watched, a flicker of something akin to awe crossing his features. "They're making progress," Ryan finally said, his voice a whisper. Cashin nodded, his face alight with genuine admiration. "They're not just surviving, they're thriving. After all they've been through, they're willing to rebuild, to embrace a new life." The Kryllian child, his laughter tinkling like wind chimes, turned towards Ryan and raised a hand in greeting. Ryan, still a little uneasy with this display of Kryllian affection, slowly raised his own hand in return. "These Kryllians," Cashin said, his voice filled with a newfound respect. "They remind me that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, hope can still shine through." Ryan remained silent, his gaze fixed on the city below. He had come to understand the Kryllians' resilience, their unwavering belief in the possibility of a future. It was a belief that had touched him, resonated with something deep within him. He was no longer just a security officer, but a protector, a guardian of a new beginning. And for the first time, Ryan found himself hoping that this new beginning would last, that it wouldn't be a fleeting flicker in the vast darkness of the universe. He hoped that the Kryllians would find peace on this new world, that they would rebuild their lives, their culture, their sense of purpose, and he hoped, perhaps for the first time in his life, that hope wouldn't be a fleeting mirage, but a guiding light leading them all towards a brighter future. The celebration on the bridge of the Hope's End was a joyous cacophony. Laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses, the aroma of freshly brewed earth-grown coffee filling the air. The Kryllians, their faces still bearing the weariness of their harrowing ordeal, smiled gently, their eyes glinting with a newfound hope. They had found a haven, a place where they could heal and rebuild. Aeron, his usually stoic face relaxed with a genuine smile, raised his glass. "To the Kryllians, to their resilience, and to the future we build together." The crew, their faces reflecting the shared joy, echoed the toast. Ira, her eyes bright with pride, watched the Kryllians as they interacted with the crew, their innate curiosity overcoming their initial shyness. They were adapting, slowly but surely, to this new world, their advanced technology gradually finding a place in human society. "It's incredible," Lyra whispered, her gaze fixed on a group of Kryllians who had assembled near the holographic display, their slender fingers tracing the swirling nebulae with fascination. "They are so eager to learn, to integrate. It's a testament to their strength, their willingness to embrace a new beginning." Cashin, who had surprisingly become a vocal advocate for the Kryllians, leaned back and chuckled. "It's a sight to see, isn't it? Those stiff upper-lip cynics from the other species, they're all shaking their heads, claiming it's unwise to embrace these unstable aliens. But we're proving them wrong. We're showing them what it means to be human, to be kind, to offer a helping hand when others would turn their backs." Ryan, his imposing frame still radiating a quiet authority, surveyed the scene, a small smile playing on his lips. They're not so different from us, after all. They have families, they have dreams, they want to build a future. We're all just trying to find our place in this vast universe. Aeron, catching Ryan's eye, nodded in agreement. And in helping the Kryllians, we found ours. We've shown what humanity can truly achieve when we embrace compassion and understanding, when we dare to reach out to those in need, even on the edge of a black hole. As the laughter and conversation continued, a sense of profound contentment settled over the bridge. The Hope's End had become more than just a vessel. It had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of human compassion, a beacon shining brightly in the vast darkness of space. They had saved the Kryllians, but in doing so, they had saved themselves, their humanity. They had proved that even in the face of unimaginable odds, against the indifference of the cosmos, against the doubts of other species, humans dared to be different, to be kind, to be brave. They dared to rescue aliens from the edge of a black hole, and in doing so, they had found their own salvation. The sun of Ethel, a brilliant orb of orange and gold, dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Kryllian city. It had been a year since their arrival on the planet, a year of rebuilding, of learning, of forging new bonds. Ethel, a world teeming with vibrant life, had embraced the Kryllians, providing them with a haven where they could heal and rebuild. The Kryllian city, once a gleaming testament to their technological prowess, now stood as a testament to their resilience. Though the scars of their past were still visible, the city pulsed with renewed life. The once silent energy conduits hummed with newly constructed circuits, the Kryllians' ingenuity having adapted to Ethel's unique energy sources. Lush gardens sprouted in the city's center, a vibrant tapestry of color and life, a testament to their renewed connection to nature. Ira stood at the edge of the city, gazing out at the sprawling landscape. The Kryllians had embraced Ethel, their delicate hands now adept at tending the soil. The air was filled with the gentle hum of Kryllian energy, the soft chimes of their native music, and the laughter of children playing amidst the blossoming gardens. The sights and sounds were a stark contrast to the desolation of their former home, a testament to the power of hope and the unyielding spirit of the Kryllians. "They've come so far," she murmured, her voice a soft whisper in the setting sun. Indeed, a voice resonated beside her. It was Aeron, his face etched with a quiet satisfaction. They found a home, a place to heal and grow. Ira turned to her captain, her gaze meeting his. Aeron, with his weathered face and calm demeanor, had become a symbol of hope for the Kryllians. He had defied the odds, risking his crew and his ship to save them from oblivion. Now, he stood with them, a testament to human compassion and the power of unity. "They've found more than just a home," Ira added, her voice tinged with emotion. "They've found a family." Aeron nodded, his eyes reflecting the setting sun. "We've all learned a great deal," he said, his voice low and steady. "About resilience, about compassion, about the strength that comes from accepting others." Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. The mission had been fraught with danger, but they had weathered the storm together. The Kryllians were now a part of their family, and the Hope's End crew, forever changed by the experience, had become a beacon of hope in a galaxy that often seemed indifferent. "Think of what will show the rest of the galaxy," Aeron said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "That even amongst the vastness of space, compassion can bloom." Ira smiled, her gaze lingering on the vibrant Kryllian city. The future, once shrouded in uncertainty, now shimmered with possibilities. The Kryllians, with their ingenuity and their unwavering spirit, were proof that even in the darkest of times, hope could find a way to bloom. From the ashes of their past, they had risen, a testimony to the power of resilience and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The news of the Kryllians' rescue spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The once dismissed distress call, a faint whisper on the edge of oblivion, had become a beacon of hope, illuminating the galactic community with the audacity of humanity's actions. On the bridge of the Hope's End, Aeron watched the news unfold on the main screen. A kaleidoscope of alien faces, some familiar, some strange, filled the screen, their expressions a mixture of bewilderment, skepticism, and grudging respect. "They're still calling us the hopeful ones," Lyra said, her voice tinged with a touch of amusement. "It seems even the most cynical species can't deny the impact of our actions." Cassian, his arms folded across his chest, snorted. "Impact? More like a cosmic hiccup. A ripple in the ocean of indifference. It's not like we've changed anything." "Not yet," Aeron corrected, his voice calm and steady. "But it's a start. A small seed planted in the fertile ground of the galaxy. Seeds can grow into mighty trees." Cassian. Ira, her eyes gleaming with the light of the holographic display, added, "And our actions have shown other species that what was once considered impossible, rescuing a civilization from the brink of a black hole, is now within reach." The Kryllians, now comfortably settled on their new homeworld, watched the broadcasts alongside their human companions. The once haunted eyes of the Kryllians, flickering with fear and uncertainty, now held a glimmer of hope, a flicker of gratitude. "They are recognizing us," said Callan, the Kryllian ambassador, his voice a gentle melody. "They are seeing what we have seen, the courage and compassion of your species." Aeron, his heart a warm ember, nodded. "We were only doing what we thought was right, Callan. What humans have always tried to do." The Hope's End crew, though weary from their harrowing journey, felt a surge of elation. The mission, though challenging and perilous, had succeeded in ways they could never have imagined. They had not merely rescued a dying civilization. They had sparked a glimmer of hope in the hearts of countless beings across the galaxy. As the news of the Kryllians' rescue continued to reverberate through the galactic community, a shift in the cosmic landscape became apparent. A silent dialogue, a subtle change in perception, was taking place. The act of compassion, a rarity in a universe driven by self-interest, had touched something deep within the soul of the galaxy. The Hope's End continued its journey, its course charted not only by the stars but also by the legacy of hope it had left behind. A seed planted, a ripple in the cosmic sea, a testament to the boundless strength of human compassion. The universe, once a vast and indifferent expanse, now felt just a little bit smaller, a little bit brighter. The galaxy, it seemed, was starting to listen. The news of the Kryllians' rescue spread like a wildfire through the galactic community, a whisper of hope amidst the usual cacophony of interstellar gossip and political maneuvering. For centuries, the Kryllians had been a cautionary tale, a reminder of the cosmic indifference that often prevailed. Their fall, their desperate plea for help, and the subsequent silence from every other species had become a grim testament to the galaxy's callous nature. But now, a different story was being told. Humanity, a species once considered naive and insignificant by the galactic elite, had defied the odds, proving that compassion could rise above self-preservation. The Kryllians, once a symbol of despair, now stood as a beacon of hope. On the bustling streets of the human city, where the Kryllian refugees were being housed, a small group of individuals from different species stood in hushed conversation. A tall, slender Vron, his iridescent scales shimmering under the artificial lights of the city, spoke with a measured tone. "This is unprecedented. Humans, of all species, risk their lives for a lost cause. The Kryllians, once considered beyond saving, now have a future." Next to him, a stocky, fur-covered Gret, his voice deep and rumbling, added, "Their technology, their culture, there is much we can learn from them. Perhaps we've misjudged humanity." A slender, ethereal Syrian, their delicate form nearly translucent, spoke with a soft, melodic voice. "But this raises questions. If humans are willing to offer aid, where were we? Why did we abandon the Kryllians? We claimed it was impossible, yet they are alive, they are thriving." Their conversation was a microcosm of the debates taking place across the galaxy. The Kryllian rescue had sparked introspection, a re-evaluation of long-held beliefs about humanity and their place in the cosmos. Back on the Hope's End, Aeron observed the Kryllian children playing with their human counterparts in the ship's recreation area. A smile touched his lips. He had witnessed firsthand the Kryllians' resilience, their ability to adapt and overcome their trauma. Their laughter, their joy, filled the ship with a warmth that transcended language and species. Ira, standing beside him, watched the Kryllian children with a quiet sense of satisfaction. It had been a long, arduous journey, but the bond between the humans and the Kryllians had solidified. "They are thriving," she whispered. "They are home." Aeron nodded, his gaze lingering on the bustling scene. "The universe is a vast and unforgiving place, Ira, but it is also filled with possibilities. We may not have understood the universe, but this is the beginning of something new." Their experience, their daring act of compassion, had sent ripples throughout the galaxy. It was a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was always hope, always the potential for change. Perhaps it was time for the galaxy to learn from humanity, to embrace empathy and courage, to understand that helping those in need was not a weakness, but a strength. It was a new dawn for humanity, a dawn that promised a future where compassion and understanding, not indifference and self-preservation, guided their path through the vast and wondrous cosmos. The Kryllian refugee camp, nestled amongst the rolling hills of a human planet, buzzed with an unfamiliar energy. The air vibrated with a harmonious hum, a faint echo of their lost homeworld. Etheria, with its vibrant blue skies and bountiful life, seemed a distant memory, a haunting melody played on the strings of their collective grief. Ira, her heart aching for the Kryllians' plight, observed them from a distance. Their graceful forms, adorned in shimmering robes that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, moved with an ethereal elegance, yet their eyes held a haunted stillness, reflecting the depths of their loss. "They're adapting," Lyra said, her voice a gentle whisper, breaking the silence. "Slowly, but surely, they're finding a rhythm in this new world." Lyra, with her innate gift for language, had become a bridge between human and Kryllian, painstakingly weaving together a language that transcended their disparate cultures. Her efforts, coupled with Ira's unwavering empathy, had begun to thaw the icy shell of Kryllian resentment, replacing it with a tentative trust. Cassian, his skepticism ever present, approached them, his gaze fixed on the Kryllians with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "They seem peaceful. For what they've been through." "They're grieving," Ira replied, her voice soft. "Their homeworld, their culture, their very way of life, shattered by a single, cataclysmic event. It's a profound loss, one that reverberates through their very being." "They're not the only ones who grieve," Cassian retorted, his voice tinged with bitterness. "We lost our own, too." His eyes, usually so sharp and cynical, softened for a moment. "But they've lost everything." The Kryllians, under the watchful guidance of Ira and Lyra, began to rebuild their society, brick by fragile brick. Their advanced technology, once a source of pride, now functioned in a fragmented, unsettling way. Their shimmering structures, once symbols of their cultural prowess, now stood as stark reminders of their tragic past. Cassian, defying his own cynicism, threw himself into the task of restoring their technology. He spent countless hours poring over Kryllian schematics, his mind working tirelessly to translate their complex language of energy and flux into a language his human mind could comprehend. Ryan, his warrior instincts always on edge, watched over the Kryllians with a quiet vigilance. He had learned to respect their strength, their resilience, their deep-seated sense of unity. He had witnessed their collective grief, their unwavering determination to rebuild, to find hope in the ashes of their devastation. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, Aeron joined them. He looked out at the receding starlight, his mind filled with the echoes of their journey. "We saved them," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "but we also saved ourselves." "Saved ourselves?" Cassian scoffed, his voice laced with skepticism. "There was a time," Aeron continued, his gaze fixed on the horizon, "when we thought we were alone, that humanity was a beacon in a sea of indifference. But we learned that there are others out there, others who feel, who grieve, who yearn for connection." Aeron's gaze swept across the Kryllians, their graceful forms silhouetted against the setting sun. "As different as we are all connected. And that, I believe, is the real message of our journey. We are not alone." As the night deepened, the Kryllians gathered around the smoldering embers of a fire, their voices rising in a mournful, yet strangely hopeful melody. It was a song of remembrance, a lament for their lost homeworld, but also a hymn of resilience, a testament to the power of hope. It was a symphony of survival, a testament to the human spirit's ability to rise from the ashes, to find solace in the face of unimaginable loss, to find hope even amidst the echoes of a shattered world. For the crew of Hope's End, their journey was far from over. But as they stood there, watching the Kryllians gather around their fire, they knew that they had embarked on a journey that transcended the familiar boundaries of stars and galaxies. They had touched something profound, something that resonated deep within the human soul. The stars, as always, shone down upon them, indifferent to the struggles of mortals. Yet, in the flickering embers of the Kryllian fire, in the fragile melody of their song, in the shared gaze of the human crew, there was a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the vast, cold expanse of the cosmos, compassion, understanding, and the human spirit could shine brighter than any star. The Kryllians, though rescued from the black hole's maw, remained tethered to its gravitational pull, their hearts heavy with the loss of their homeworld. Their advanced technology, once a beacon of their civilization, now lay scattered and broken, a testament to the devastating cataclysm that had befallen Etheria. Ira, her usual bright optimism tempered by the Kryllians' profound grief, worked tirelessly to help them rebuild. She and Lyra, with their shared passion for knowledge and their ability to bridge cultural divides, became a source of comfort and understanding for the newly arrived refugees. They translated ancient Kryllian texts, shared stories of human history, and created a space for healing and hope within the Kryllian refugee camp. Aeron, his steely resolve softened by the Kryllians' vulnerability, spent hours talking with the Kryllian leaders. He listened to their tales of loss and resilience, their tales of a civilization that had thrived for millennia, only to be shattered by a force beyond their control. He saw in their eyes a flicker of hope, a spark ignited by the unlikely hand that had reached out to save them. Cashin, the once cynical engineer, found himself unexpectedly drawn to the Kryllians' technological ingenuity. He spent countless hours poring over their fragmented blueprints, his mind buzzing with ideas and possibilities. He saw in their technology not just broken remnants, but the seeds of a new future, a future where human and Kryllian minds could collaborate, where the echoes of a lost civilization could resonate in a new world. Ryan, his stoic exterior softening, watched as the Kryllian children played, their laughter a poignant reminder of the resilience of life. He saw in their eyes a longing for a home, a desire for security, a yearning for a future free of the black hole's shadow. He vowed to protect them, to ensure that the Kryllians, despite their loss, would find a place to thrive, to rebuild, to live. The Kryllians' new home was a world chosen for its resemblance to Etheria, a world with blue skies, warm climates, and an abundance of resources. The Kryllians, with the guidance of the humans, began to plant seeds, to build shelters, to establish new connections with their environment. Theirs was a monumental task, but one undertaken with a renewed hope, a hope that they were not alone, that their story was not finished, that the echoes of their past could resonate in a new world. Aeron stood on the bridge of the Hope's End, watching as the Kryllian ship, a marvel of salvage technology, ascended to the heavens, a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. He felt a wave of pride wash over him, a pride not in conquering the odds, but in sharing a journey, in contributing to the tapestry of life, in proving that even in the face of cosmic indifference, humanity dared to offer a hand, a lifeline, a beacon of hope. The Hope's End sliced through the inky blackness of space, the Milky Way a shimmering ribbon behind them. The Kryllians, their new home planet a verdant blue jewel in the distance, had settled into their new lives. Aeron, seated on the bridge, watched the Kryllian refugee ship, now a mere speck against the vast backdrop of the cosmos, disappear into the star cluster. He had fought tooth and nail to save them, against the cynicism of other civilizations, and even some within his own crew. The risk had been immense, the odds stacked against them, but they had succeeded. The Kryllians, at their core, were a resilient people. Their technology, though unstable, had held. They had shown him the human spirit was not a unique attribute. It resonated in the universe, even in the face of extinction. Aeron turned to Ira, who stood by the viewscreen, her gaze fixed on the Kryllian ship. "They'll be fine," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I know," Ira said, her smile tinged with a bitter sweetness. "They found a home, a place to heal and rebuild." Cassian, seated at the engineering console, snorted. "Just hope they don't decide to conquer their new playground." Ryan, standing near Cassian, glared at him. "They're not like us, Cassian," he said, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "Their technology doesn't drive their ambition. They built it for survival, for knowledge, for understanding." Cassian rolled his eyes. "Yeah, well, I've seen enough of those survival tactics to fill a black hole." Lyra, at her station, intervened smoothly. "They've already set up communication channels with the local planetary council. They're sharing knowledge, not conquering." Aeron nodded. "It's a new chapter for the Kryllians, and a new chapter for us. We were the ones who dared to do what others wouldn't, and now we're the ones who are being judged." Ira laid a hand on his shoulder. "We made the right choice, Aeron, and the galaxy will see that." They had faced the void and chosen to shine a light. They had shown the universe that even in the face of insurmountable odds, compassion could prevail. Hope's End, and its crew, forever marked by their experience, would continue to answer the call, a beacon of hope in a universe often shrouded in darkness.